Chapter 51. Read the warning before cultivating. When coming out of the room after his closed-door training, the instant he saw the sunshine again, Yang Chen had a sudden urge to jump, as if it was an instinct of his body, but also because of his excitement for the sex martial arts competition starting from tomorrow. In the sex martial arts competition, contestants were divided according to their realms. Generally speaking, fights between disciples of different realms was utterly dangerous. Even if someone with a high cultivation was acting as guard, it was still a very risky affair. Usually, only disciples with the same cultivation would fight with each other, so naturally, it was a competition between disciples of the same stage. According to the rules of the martial arts competition, the disciples at the lower realms would accumulate points depending on their victory or defeat, and later, according to these points, their rankings would change. Those who were ranked higher would enjoy an even better status and treatment, while those ranked behind would have to spend more contribution points to receive the same resources. These kinds of rules motivated all of the disciples to cultivate even more meticulously. Naturally, someone challenging a disciple above their realm would receive more advantages and bonus points, only, this kind of thing was seen very rarely. Generally speaking, the teachers did not recommend their disciples to challenge someone above their realm, not to mention the danger, it could severely dampen one's confidence, so the games really didn't make up for the losses. The one in which Yang Chen would participate was naturally the Kai Realm martial arts contest. All of the Kai Realm disciples could, within the first day, challenge other disciples to fight or could instead be challenged by others. The location of this competition was naturally the Nine Earth Manor. Because of Yang Chen and Gong Sun Ling's performance at the Heavenly Stairs this year, at this Kai Layer martial arts competition, the palace master of the Pure Yang Palace himself would personally come to watch. This made all of the disciples incomparably excited and eager to fight. As long as one could leave a profound impression on the palace master, then would one still have to worry about their future cultivation. The merit-transferring disciple, Chu Heng, was responsible to act as arbitrator for the competition this time, and at the same time, he was also responsible for saving disciples if they were in danger. With him there were also more than a dozen foundation stage disciples, including Du Qian of the Law Enforcement Hall. Yang Chen was not very interested in challenging these disciples of the Nine Earth Manor and seizing their cultivation resources. His sole desire was to learn by interaction, and that was also just with Gongsun Ling and no one else. As for Sun Haijing, indeed he was Yang Chen's target for a life and death challenge, their relationship had already sank to the point of being mortal enemies. Gongsun Ling also hadn't wasted these 3 months, with just one look, Yang Chen became aware that she had certainly broken through within these 3 months and had entered the 7th Kai layer. Compared to the Gongsun Ling before she had climbed the heavenly stairs, the present Gongsun Ling was even more energetic and had even more fighting spirit, her attitude was as if she could fight with anyone below the heavens. Because this kind of fighting spirit would bring about changes in one's personality, it became visible to everyone. Originally Gongsun Ling was just a beautiful woman who was hard to come by, but now she also had a hint of confidence and aggressiveness. She had also been in secluded training for the past 3 months and appeared in public for the first time since then, but even if it was the first time, she had immediately attracted the sight of all the Kai Realm disciples. Even Chu Heng had fixed his gaze on Gongsun Ling, but he had an indescribable expression. Although Gongsun Ling had been good-natured previously, this was not towards everyone. Her present attitude made her seem unapproachable. Although almost everyone's gaze was fixed on her, no one dared to go and talk to her. A smile spread on Yang Chen's face, and he immediately greeted Gongsun Ling from a distance. Looking at Yang Chen, Gongsun Ling immediately smiled towards him. Only, with just this faint smile, she made everyone feel as if the sky had fallen onto their heads. Just this greeting between these two people made the palace master of the Pure Yang Palace, who had rushed over here but had not yet appeared in front of everyone, sense the exceptionality of Yang Chen and Gongsun Ling. One person could make the people not dare to approach her, but when she smiled, it could make them feel as if the sun had peeked through between the clouds. The other, regardless of the situation, could always preserve his calmness, such a disciple was really hard to come by. It had to be known that at that moment all disciples in the Nine Earth Manor were in fear that their performance was deemed as no good by the palace master, therefore all of the disciples were very careful. Even those foundation stage disciples, who were in charge of arbitrating and defending disciples, had the same thoughts. Apart from Yang Chen and Gongsun Ling, only 2 or 3 foundation stage disciples were able to show this type of calmness. Gongsun Ling had entered the 7th Kai layer, so her strength had increased, and her mental state had also made a breakthrough, so this was not unexpected for most people. But for a 3rd Kai layer outer disciple to be able to cultivate this kind of strong mind, it was no wonder that he could climb to the peak of the heavenly stairs 2 times and could still cripple 19 Jidan experts. For such a person, this was not something out of the ordinary. Even though the sect leader had only appeared in front of everyone and had not said anything, this still inspired all of the people present. Hearing about him was just one thing, but truly seeing him was a whole different thing. Sun Haijing stood on one side at the corner with a profound smile on his face. He had learned from Chu Hang why the palace master of the Pure Yang Palace had appeared here. Looking at Yang Chen and Gongsun Ling greeting each other, Sun Haijing suddenly had a very ridiculous thought. If Yang Chen, for whom the palace master had high hopes, was eliminated from the martial arts competition, what would he feel if that happened? Not only the Pure Yang Palace, but all other sects also allowed life and death duels between their disciples. This was the most just and honorable method to settle disputes, and after the event it was unlikely for anyone to investigate it. Naturally, this was just a theory, as for whether or not it was looked into, only the parties involved would be clear about. However, with just this condition, what would Sun Haijing have to fear? As for choosing between killing Yang Chen honorably during the duel and killing Yang Chen at some other time, but at the same time being investigated afterwards and losing his ability to break through, even an idiot would know what to pick. Chu Hang announced the start of the martial arts competition, and immediately, in the training grounds of the Nine Earth Manor, the crowd began to boil with excitement, and many disciples began to look for other disciples of the same layer to begin challenging them, and very quickly within the training grounds, an image of a blade appeared. Yang Chen hadn't moved, and Gongsun Ling also didn't make a move, but in the corner, Sun Haijing had issued a challenge towards a peak high layer disciple. This one move of his immediately raised a huge clamor among many people. Sun Haijing was merely a minor 4th Kai layer disciple, how could he dare to challenge a peak Kai layer master? Furthermore, he had not only just challenged any peak Kai layer disciple, but also the one acknowledged as the number 1 outer disciple. Challenging someone above one's realm was allowed at the martial competition, and at the same time it would also reward the most points. However, for the challenge people it was a troublesome event because they would later be blamed of being the strong, taking unfair advantage of the weak, or that they had an unfair advantage in that battle, while being defeated would lose even more face. Even if it was a challenge above one's realm, it was usually a 3rd Kai layer disciple challenging a 4th Kai layer disciple, or a 4th Kai layer disciple challenging 5th Kai layer disciple, but challenging someone with a differences of more than 5 layers was unprecedented. Younger disciple son, you can still change your decision. The challenge disciple was known as Zhu Zai, he was not very old, only 30 years or so. From the time he had started cultivating to reaching the peak of the Kai layer, he had only taken 15 years of time, he was just one step away from the foundation stage. Within a few years he had become the number 1 disciple among the outer disciples, so he would not be cowardly when facing Sun Haijing's challenge, rather he had just indifferently warned him once. Sun Haijing burst into loud laughter and opened his hand, and from within his hand, the figure of a sword flew out and started rotating around his body in the air. The magic weapon. The people watching the battle did not dare to believe their own eyes, the sword that flew out from Sun Haijing's body was glowing magnificently and exerted a great pressure, which clearly proved that it was a magic flying sword. He was just a minor Kai layer disciple, how did he get a magic weapon? How was he able to control it? A lot of doubt immediately appeared in the minds of spectators. When Yang Chen looked at this, his brows creased deeply. This looked very similar to something he knew. Sun Haijing's situation resembled exactly an evil cultivation accelerating method. And the hidden pavilion of the Nine Earth Manor was in possession of this cultivation method. However, the cost of cultivating this kind of cultivation method was extremely high, so nearly nobody cultivated this kind of method. Almost nobody is not equal to exactly nobody. That Sun Haijing before his eyes was a clear example of this. In the brief period of a few months, his cultivation had increased by leaps and bounds, even surpassing a peak Kai layer disciple, reaching nearly to the standard of the foundation stage. The flying sword, which he had, was obtained from a loose cultivator at the early foundation stage, whom he had fought a few days ago to test his strength. Not all people were like Yang Chen and had read all of the jade slips in the hidden pavilion. Regarding Sun Haijing's circumstances, more than 90% of people were not aware what was going on. Everyone only thought that the 4th Kai layer disciple Sun Haijing had hidden his true strength, but still, seeing him suddenly reveal the strength of the foundation stage, how could they not cry out in surprise? The Pure Yang Palace had already discovered 2 talented disciples at the heavenly stairs this year, could it be that one more individual had appeared silently again? This year, the popularity of the Pure Yang Palace would burst out of all seams due to all these talents appearing. Everyone's bewildered voices made Sun Haijing extremely satisfied, the looks of everyone not daring to believe made Sun Haijing feel as if he was bathing in a soft spring wind, his whole self had become elated. The feeling of losing all of his face when he was thoroughly humiliated by Yang Chen in front of numerous people was completely removed. Immense satisfaction flooded Sun Haijing's mind, which was increased even more by the flying sword he controlled to revolve around him. Zhu's eye, opposite of Sun Haijing, revealed an earnest expression on his face. Although the other party had suddenly revealed a flying magic sword as a Pekai layer disciple, this was not a strength which would force him to risk his life. Sun Haijing's expressions were also making people feel suspicious of him, his odds for succeeding were not that great, and Zhu's eye was unlikely to give up immediately. Facing the magical weapon, Zhu's eye also took out the talisman gem in his control. It was also a sword, but the difference in grade was too much. It was merely a talisman sword after all. No talisman gem, however still it radiated power which would shock people's souls. Suddenly a cold sword kai appeared, Zhu's eye also emitted a pressure that did not lose out to Sun Haijing. All of a sudden, Sun Haijing's sword shone brightly. Don't shed tears at the sight of the coffin. Sun Haijing sneered and took the initiative to attack. In his opinion, since he had already taken out his magic flying sword, the other party should have immediately admitted defeat and bowed before him, making way for his victory. What was the need to go through with the fight? Wouldn't this enormously lower his heroic victory? Against this Zhu's eye, who could not show any understanding of the situation, Sun Haijing used his killing move and launched the flying sword to attack him with a decisive blow. But Zhu's eye also lived up to his reputation as the #1 Pekai layer disciple, neither dodging nor avoiding, he controlled his talisman sword to face against it. Bang! With an exceptionally clear and melodious sound that rang in everyone's ears, two brilliant rays flew out on each side and returned to their own masters. After Zhu's eye firmly resisted this blow, he discovered a small problem with the talisman sword in his hand. Bowing his head to look, he astonishingly discovered a grain-sized nick at the edge of his talisman sword. In the recent blow, he had already suffered a defeat. Seeing this one move, the palace master standing behind could not help but sigh with a long breath. Although Sun Haijing's strength had increased, it was only caused by cultivating an evil cultivation method. Talent? Absolutely not. Originally he thought that he could find an unexpected pleasant surprise, but now it seems that was only his wishful thinking. The palace master shook his head and glanced resentfully at the merit-transferring disciple, Chu Heng. How could a Kai layer disciple be allowed to cultivate this kind of method? This merit-transferring disciple was greatly unsuited for his position. This one glance scared Chu Heng so much that even Soul trembled and cold drops of sweat appeared on his head. Lowering his head, he did not even dare to breathe loudly. He suddenly felt his knees go soft and he fell on the ground to beg for forgiveness. Fortunately, the palace master had merely glanced at him but not said anything. He closed his eyes again and continued to observe the circumstances below in the martial arts competition with his spiritual awareness. When all was said and done, he had just recently acquired his strength and at the same time also the flying sword, so Sun Haijing only looked impressive on the surface, but his method of controlling the flying sword was far inferior. Compared to Zhu's eye, who had trained for a much longer time, the difference was a lot more than a level. But, presently Sun Haijing had no other option, but the quality of the sword in his hand was better than Zhu's eye's. All of his attacks were aiming to kill the enemy, a method which would end in mutual destruction, forcing both his and Zhu's eye swords to clash. After going through this again and again, the talisman sword in Zhu's eye's hands was badly worn, with several holes. If this continued for one more strike, this talisman sword would be completely destroyed. Thinking about this again and again, Zhu's eye no longer insisted on continuing this. The foundation stage was in his sight, he had carried this talisman sword for many years and had invested much in it. Once he would reach the foundation stage and refined it, it would turn into a magic flying sword. If it was destroyed now, the gains would not make up for the losses. Finding an opportunity to come out of the fight, he cupped his hands toward Sun Haijing and said. Younger disciple Sun's flying sword is really difficult to deal with, I admit defeat. After saying this, he immediately turned around and walked away, without looking back. The victorious Sun Haijing, after hearing the burst of surprised voices coming from the audience, was extremely satisfied. After smugly listening to it for a long time, he turned to Yang Chen and shouted. Younger disciple Yang, regarding the life and death challenge between us, you will not surely run away, right? Younger disciple Yang, do you dare to accept the challenge? Once these words came out, it gave rise to surprised comments from the audience. According to the rules of the martial arts competition, a disciple of a lower realm could decide not to accept a life and death challenge. If Yang Chen did not accept the challenge, Sun Haijing would have to look for another opportunity to take care of Yang Chen. He had asked in this way, clearly because he was trying to force Yang Chen to accept. However, Yang Chen laughed out loudly and immediately entered the stage. His movement gave rise to even more astonished looks. Sun Haijing had right now showed the strength of the foundation stage, but Yang Chen was just a third Kai layer disciple. How could he be so stupid to throw away his life like this? After moving in front of Sun Haijing, Yang Chen looked at the smug Sun Haijing and suddenly asked. Senior disciple's son, when you found this cultivation method, did you look at the jade slip on the side explaining about it? Are you aware that cultivating this kind of cultivation method, you will. If you are enjoying the content, let a like, comment and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 52. I don't need a magic weapon to beat you to death. Yang Chen had looked at the jade slips in the hidden pavilion for more than half a year. This was not a secret at Nine Earth Manor. Sun Haijing did not find it strange at all that Yang Chen knew the cultivation method in which he trained, but he had said something about an explanatory jade slip on the side, but Sun Haijing had never seen it. He basically wasn't even aware of any explanatory jade slip. This was precisely the cause for the huge changes in his complexion. This moment he suddenly sensed a dread evolve from his heart. The uncle master who had always unconditionally supported him had at this moment become the source of his dread. This cultivation method of the sect had such great backlash, then why didn't Chu Heng tell him about this earlier? At this point, Sun Haijing could only imagine one reason, but he absolutely did not want to believe that reason. With no way out of this dilemma, Sun Haijing stood there stunned, rooted to the ground. Although the words of these two people were very low and concealed from the ears of the spectators, hearing Yang Chen just use a few words to make Sun Haijing lose his self-control in this way, apparently everyone realized some parts of the truth. Sun Haijing had for some reason surprisingly cultivated an evil cultivation method, although it would quickly increase his strength, the cost he had to pay was using up his life force. Only due to this forceful increase in his strength could he defeat Chu Zai. But, he was not aware that this cultivation method had this kind of fatal flaw, thus he was in the current situation. There was no one who was not aware that Yang Chen and Sun Haijing were on bad terms. Since the time when Yang Chen had wanted to join the Pure Yang Palace, both of them had some conflicts. At that time, Sun Haijing was beaten so badly by Yang Chen that he had to spend a long time in bed, recuperating. So now, Sun Haijing initiating a life and death duel towards Yang Chen was quite normal. However, even after watching Sun Haijing easily defeat Chu Zai, who was at the peak of the Kai layer, Yang Chen unexpectedly still agreed to the life and death challenge. This made everyone very confused. Could it be that Yang Chen already had the strength of a peak Kai layer cultivator or even an initial foundation stage expert? The shocked Sun Haijing finally sobered up from his dazed state. Facing Yang Chen, with a sinister expression he shouted. If you think that you can make me lose the will to fight with a single eye, then you are mistaken. Shouting these words, he immediately restored his raging will to fight, and with blood filling his eyes had turned so red that they could make anyone shudder. Those two eyes were like a hunter choosing prey to devour. Even if it was false, for you it already has no more meaning. Yang Chen faintly shook his head, with regret spreading across his face. For a dead man like Sun Haijing, whether Yang Chen's words were true or not, they would not have any meaning. Humph, trying to deliberately mislead me. However, Sun Haijing did not think this way. Just a moment ago when he had heard Yang Chen's speech, he had certainly become low-spirited, however very quickly he realized that this was perhaps some sort of mental attack by Yang Chen, so as to make him lose the will to fight. After realizing this point, Sun Haijing became very angry and at the same time he relaxed in his heart. Regardless of whether Yang Chen's words were true or false, for Sun Haijing, the timber had already been turned into a boat, wanting to convert it back was impossible. To determine whether it was true or not, after he killed Yang Chen in this life and death battle, he could only go back to the hidden pavilion and look for the explanatory jade slip and check on the jade slip whether there really was such a description or not. But if he wanted to check whether or not it was true, Sun Haijing first had to survive. The more important thing right now was the fight in front of him. Younger disciple Yang, did you not say that you would use a countless number of talisman gems to crush me to death? On one side of Sun Haijing's body, the flying sword light began to rise again and started rotating around Sun Haijing's body. This further increased the radiance of Sun Haijing's body and at the same time also gave him an unlimited confidence. With grand theatrics he looked at Yang Chen and asked. Actually I wanted to test, younger disciple Yang, what sort of talisman gems you would wish to use against my flying sword. About those talisman gems which can deal with your flying sword, I don't really have that many. Hearing Sun Haijing's question, Yang Chen smilingly said. On the journey I haven't bought many talisman gems, I will have to disappoint senior disciple's son. Since younger disciple Yang has promised for a life and death duel, then you must not blame this senior disciple for being heartless. A malicious laugh found its way onto Sun Haijing's face again, most of all hearing that Yang Chen had no talisman gems, it got even more mixed up and turned into an evil smile. The die under this magic flying sword is younger disciple Yang's good fortune. Yang Chen once again smiled and said. This kind of honorable act, senior disciple, set it aside for yourself. Following Yang Chen's words, a sheath was raised in air and started hovering in front of Yang Chen. It was simple and unadorned without any sort of awe-inspiring radiance. Senior disciple has his own flying sword, and by some lucky coincidence, younger disciple has obtained a sheath, though I do not know whether it can encompass senior disciple's flying sword. Yang Chen calmly said, facing the endlessly stunned Sun Haijing. Once the sword sheath appeared, everyone present in the surroundings sensed a different sort of pressure. Naturally, Sun Haijing, who was standing on the stage, also sensed the silent pressure caused by the sheath, and his face thickened. The Pure Yang Palace's palace master, who was observing from behind with his spiritual awareness, had his expression turn pleasant. Opening his eyes, he said. "What a good item." These words made a silent flame burn in the eyes of Chu Heng, who was serving on the side. "Humph, what a coincidence, as soon as I obtained a flying sword, you also obtained a sword sheath. Thinking to put my flying sword into it? Dream on." Sun Haijing had also sensed that Yang Chen's sword sheath was a very good item, but even if it was better, in the end it was still a sword sheath and nothing more. He had never before heard of any expert who had used the sheath of a sword as a weapon, or even further, refined a sword sheath into a magic weapon. Nowadays there were flying swords, which were stored in one's body below the navel, where the chi resided, and did not require incessant refining, so where was the need for a sword sheath? Whether I am dreaming or not, senior disciple will realize after trying. But Yang Chen only said this, rather than talking a lot. "You are courting death." Sun Haijing was furious, both new and old hatred all rushed forth in his heart, as the flying sword rotating around his body, suddenly turned into a ray, and swiftly flew towards Yang Chen. It moved noiselessly, only leaving behind a rainbow-shaped image. Its speed was really beyond compare. However, what left everyone who was watching flabbergasted was that, when the afterimage left by the flying sword was flying close to Yang Chen, that sword sheath which had been hanging in the air in front of Yang Chen, suddenly became exceptionally huge and opened up an enormous hole, resembling a hungry dragon in the sky. Ah! At once the flying sword was swallowed. No matter how much Sun Haijing tried to get control over the flying sword which had been swallowed by the sheath, did not show any response. It seemed that the connection of spiritual awareness between Sun Haijing and his flying sword had been cut off, which raised a thought of despair in Sun Haijing's mind. Impossible. Impossible. It seemed that Sun Haijing had gone mad after losing his flying sword. He started shouting and screaming. "You are a trifling third Kai layer disciple, how can you control a magic weapon? How can you wrest away the control over my flying sword?" The other people had only seen Yang Chen's sword sheath for a single moment, but Sun Haijing's flying sword had lost all of its presence. They hadn't anticipated that the flying sword would have been seized by Yang Chen. Hearing Sun Haijing shouting in a loud voice, everyone was overwhelmed with shock. Taking control over the flying sword just before it could be used, what level of skill was this? Although the majority of Kai layer disciples hadn't had the opportunity to come in contact with a magic weapon, this didn't mean that none of the Kai layer disciples had a magic weapon. Not to mention Yang Chen, even inside the Nine Earth Manor, there were a few peak Kai layer disciples who owned their own magic weapons. Yang Chen was not the only genius. These people had similarly refined their own magic weapons, refined their own flying swords, and even had similar control over their swords, so they naturally knew how much of a frightening ability it was to seize control of a flying sword which was being used by someone else. "Senior brother son, your luck isn't very good, this sheath of mine, as it turns can easily collect your flying sword, which hasn't been refined." On Yang Chen's face was a dishonest smile, as if he had received a great deal, but still wanted more, so he giddily said. "Many thanks, senior disciple, now I don't have to look for a flying sword to be stored inside of the sheath." Sun Haijing almost spat out blood listening to Yang Chen's ridicule. Seizing someone's magic weapon and then going as far as to ridicule him in such a way, no one would be able to stand this kind of mockery. However, Yang Chen's words were relief to a lot of people. That the sword sheath could only collect unrefined flying swords would also imply that afterwards, Yang Chen could not just go and capture anyone's magic weapons. Sometimes, just having the ability to cause fear in other people could be the cause of misfortune. Since Yang Chen had used this method only to deal with Sun Haijing, others did not need to be very anxious. This recent act had even shocked the palace master of the Pure Yang Palace so much that he had opened both his eyes. Only after hearing Yang Chen's words did he nod slightly and close his eyes again. Yang Chen's words were quite reasonable though, if it was not properly refined and was just marked with a sign of spiritual awareness on it, then anyone with a higher cultivation could easily take control of it. Although Yang Chen's cultivation was lacking, with the help of the sword sheath, it was all very normal. Sun Haijing presently did not have that any of his previous arrogance, shock was written all over his face, as he had been spooked out of his mind, even his tone began to soften. "Younger disciple Yang, you and I don't have a hatred which cannot be resolved, younger disciple must not ruthlessly eliminate me like this, okay?" Hearing his voice, both of them had stopped their actions, each stationed at the side of the stage. There was already a hint of desperation in Sun Haijing's voice. "This life and death challenge, wasn't it initiated by you, senior disciple's son?" Although Yang Chen hadn't attacked him, within his tone, there was not even a hint of letting off Sun Haijing. "I remember, when I was leaving the Nine Earth Manor, senior disciple's son had said that unfortunately I would not get the opportunity to challenge you. I would never dare to forget." Once these words came out of his mouth, everyone looked at Sun Haijing, but not with the same look anymore. Who did not know that when Yang Chen had left the Nine Earth Manor, he was immediately attacked by a few assassins. Although he had killed them instead, using some unknown method, everyone clearly realized that this was a premeditated attack, with the collaboration of someone from the inside, to kill a disciple of the same sect. After Yang Chen had said these words, the greatest suspicion had naturally fallen on Sun Haijing. Killing disciples of the same sect, this was an offense second only to betraying the sect, apart from some sect which cultivated evil cultivation methods, no matter which sect it was, even the great major sects which cultivated evil cultivation methods. All would not tolerate this kind of matter happening. Suddenly, Sun Haijing had successfully become the target of all the attention. At that moment he was not only on the fighting stage, but also in front of the Pyongyang Palace's palace master, who was watching the fight. Even some people from the crowd had jumped up to punish him. Even more, a countless number of people were still reprimanding him. This time he had already left a deep impression of being evil and filled with hatred on the palace master. What more was required to deal with him? Yu Heng's heart was jumping even more inside of his chest. If, under this kind of pressure, Sun Haijing said something carelessly which could implicate him, then, with the palace master present, he would not even have the chance to escape. Presently he had an infinite number of regrets within his heart. If he had known earlier about what would happen today, then he would have already taken care of Sun Haijing earlier, but instead he had racked his brains to search for a flying sword to make him stronger. Sun Haijing also seemed to realize the anger that a lot of people were pointing towards him. Within his heart he was sure that he would die, so he immediately stopped worrying about anything else and started laughing in loud voice. "Ha ha ha ha. Yes, I did, so what? You are an executioner who kills without any regards, but you still want to stand by the side of us hardworking cultivators. I want to kill you. My only regret is that those people were not good enough, otherwise you would already be on your way to the netherworld." After he had taken all of the responsibility for the matter, Chu Heng's jumping heart finally calmed down. With the palace master of the Pyongyang Palace on his side, he did not dare to release a sigh of relief, but he still felt a sort of comfort. However, he hadn't looked towards the palace master, whose eyes, which Chu Heng thought to be closed, slanted towards his direction and then quickly returned to normal. "You admitted, good." Yang Chen coldly humphed. "Since you have already accepted, then receive your punishment." The sword sheath in the air disappeared and Yang Chen quickly moved towards Sun Haijing. Since even the palace master hadn't said anything, the other people also did not dare to interfere lightly. Right away, Yang Chen surprisingly threw away the magic weapon and started fighting with his bare hands, which made everyone present on the scene crease their brows, but at the same time feel anxious for him. The other party had the strength of the initial foundation stage. Going against him like this, does he just want to throw his life away? "You are courting death, let me help you." Sun Haijing was even more exalted. Yang Chen, this thorn on his flesh, had unexpectedly decided to let go of his magic weapon and fight directly with his cultivation. Wasn't this just delivering the prey to his door? In this moment, he had already given up any hopes of finding an opportunity of trying to escape. His last wish was to kill Yang Chen before he died. Thinking this, he directly flew towards Yang Chen to attack him. Within an instant, the bodies of those two people came close to each other. Everyone opened their eyes widely, afraid to miss a moment. Only, the thing that they found most unbelievable was that, even with Sun Haijing's current speed, his attacking fist, like before, was still not able to hit Yang Chen. Yang Chen had instead stopped Sun Haijing's fist and had easily swung him by using it as a handle. A few great circles were formed in the sky. Bang! Bang! Sun Haijing was flung onto the ground by Yang Chen again and again. With a sound from Yang Chen's wrist, his bones were broken. Together with the pain of broken bones, the dizziness made him lose all ability to resist. At that moment he was only seeing the ground coming closer and closer to him, and afterwards he was thrown, again and again. He resolutely lifted his head, only to find a huge clenched fist appearing in front of him. Slam. Slam. Continuous banging, accompanied with the occasional breaking sound, echoed in everyone's ears. Yang Chen's clenched fist was continuously smashing on Sun Haijing's head. Soon Sun Haijing's head was smashed into a bloody gourd. "Do you really think that without a magic weapon, I would be unable to defeat you?" Yang Chen stopped his ferocious smashing and pulled Sun Haijing's mutilated head and twisted it. Hacha. Sun Haijing's head turned in a complete circle. He was still facing in the original direction, but his vitality had been severed. If you are enjoying the content, let a like, comment and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 53 Request to leave for the immortal falling well. Being affected by the 5 phases of yin and yang secrets, the spirit power leaving Yang Chen's body almost immediately began to rise dramatically under the effect of the 5 phases rousing each other. Although his cultivation was merely at the 3rd Kai layer, because of his vigorous and extremely pure spirit power, he was not that much weaker than peak Kai layer cultivators. The 5 phases also contained the 10 heavenly stars spell, this resulted in even more formidable power. Although Sun Haijing already had the strength of a foundation stage cultivator, under the continuous and unceasing attacks, because he had not yet proficiently practiced his body protecting spell formation, it had been scattered with just a few attacks. Soon after that, one strike thoroughly took care of him. His badly beaten and utterly mutilated head, as well as his corpse, which had already lost its vitality, had illustrated a fact to all of the people present, the fact that Yang Chen had gotten rid of Sun Haijing. Sun Haijing had unexpectedly been killed by Yang Chen. That Sun Haijing, who possessed the strength of an initial foundation stage cultivator and in addition to that had a flying sword, had surprisingly been killed by an outer disciple at the 3rd Kai layer, Yang Chen. The number 1 outer disciple expert, Zhu Zai, had already admitted defeat, adding on to that Sun Haijing's savageness, everyone had already acknowledged that he possessed the strength of the initial foundation stage. Just by using his flying sword, he had forced a peak Kai layer disciple Zhu Zai to admit defeat, so his strength could be judged from that. But Sun Haijing's life and duel against Yang Chen was even more surprising. That was the most surprising thing. Who could even imagine that the 3rd Kai layer disciple Yang Chen had unexpectedly killed Sun Haijing with just his fists on the stage. Although Sun Haijing had already been killed within this short amount of time, these 1,000 outer disciples were not able to accept this great of a discrepancy. Could it be that the number 1 expert among the outer disciples was not a peak Kai layer disciple, but rather a 3rd Kai layer disciple? Interesting. Pure Yang Palace's palace master, who had closed his eyes to regain his composure, said this, and soon after that, he raised his finger in the direction of Yang Chen, who was on the stage, and lightly shot forth a fragment of spirit power. No one in the training ground sensed anything, but Yang Chen on the stage suddenly became alert, his body moved at lightning speed, and both of his arms came forward to defend and directly adjusted to a guarding position. At the same time, 10 earth wall talismans flew out of his Qianqin pouch, and in a flash, 10 thick and deep earth walls rose in front of Yang Chen. This method of using the talismans without any movements stunned everyone even more. But everyone in the surroundings was absolutely baffled. Yang Chen had already won, why was he suddenly doing this kind of thing? Yang Chen already didn't have any more time to explain, just after he had stopped moving, an extremely strong force struck at the recently raised earth walls. Bang! These 10 deep earth walls were blown away like paper before this powerful force. With incredible ease the spirit power turned the earth walls into dust to fly off as soon as it came in contact with an earth wall. But this was still not over, after damaging all of the earth walls, the remainder of the spirit power knocked against Yang Chen's crossed arms. Yang Chen's whole body was pushed back by the enormous spirit power, but his legs didn't leave the ground, so his whole person was pushed away by at least a few meters, which left 2 foot marks in a perfectly straight line. This tyrannical strength, not only had it struck Yang Chen, but a very small portion of spirit power had also entered Yang Chen's body through his arms and had firmly clashed against Yang Chen's own spirit power. It had an imposing attitude, as if wanting to overcome all obstacles and trying to thoroughly crush Yang Chen. Once this portion of spirit power had entered Yang Chen's body, his own spirit power had already transformed into reverse 5 phases of yin and yang kai, and without sparing any efforts, it began to resist this portion of invading spirit power. With his arms, one as yin and one as yang, the reverse 5 phases of yin and yang were like 2 huge millstones, frantically beginning to consume this invading spirit power. The 5 phases spirit power circulated within Yang Chen's body and started to resist. To the surrounding people, the only thing that was visible was after Yang Chen had recoiled from being hit, a sparkling and translucent blue color had appeared on Yang Chen's arms. It was as if this blue color had turned alive and started spreading from his arms to his shoulders at lightning speed, as if it would immediately reach it. Suddenly, at that time, a red-colored light appeared from Yang Chen's body and started moving towards his arms, starting to resist the blue color which was spreading through his arms. You really overestimate yourself. Zhu Heng, standing near Pure Yang Palace's palace master, had seen the movements of the palace master. Seeing that Yang Chen had used his own spirit power to resist against the palace master, Zhu Heng could not help but coldly snort and pass an assessment like this. The palace master had clearly used this to test Yang Chen's strength, but even with Zhu Heng's current realm, he would not dare to say that he could continue to resist the palace master's strike. But a trifling third Kai layer disciple unexpectedly kept on resisting, like he did not know the height of the heavens and the depth of the earth. He really was impossibly stupid. Only, just as this cold snort came out of Chu Heng's throat, the situation of Yang Chen on the training ground stage felt like one slap after another on his face. The red-colored light had unexpectedly stopped at the region below Yang Chen's shoulder. Although in the beginning it had begun to retreat, but after retreating to the region below the shoulder, it did not withdraw anymore and was in a deadlock with the blue color. What happened? Chu Heng almost suspected that he had seen wrongly with his spiritual awareness, but with the palace master at his side, he did not dare to leave and check personally and could only keep these kind of thoughts in his mind, but he began to increasingly concentrate on the training ground stage to observe everything that was happening there. The deadlock between the red light and the blue color lasted only for a short moment and then it began to strike back. Slowly the blue color began to be pressed down, little by little, it even rapidly increased in speed, starting with a speed of 1 hair by 1 hair, then very quickly turning into 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter, and then quickly turning into 1 inch by 1 inch. Under the numerous stairs, the region the blue color had spread to was pushed down to the region where it had first occurred, changing into one small region. After a moment, the blue color began to faint slowly and at last disappeared entirely, while the faint red light on Yang Chen's body also began to slowly wane. At the same time, sweat was pouring down from Yang Chen's whole body like rivers, his clothes were entirely drenched, and his ragged breath betrayed the hardships he had faced a moment ago. Nobody knew just how immense the pressure was that he had faced just a moment ago and how difficult it was to take. The tightly closed eyes of Pure Yang Palace's palace master finally opened. A mysterious smile could be seen on his face. The movements of his mouth seemed as if he was talking to himself, but the few disciples serving him heard what he was saying. Third Kai layer, but unexpectedly he can block my sharp spirit pressure even without using a magic weapon, interesting. After he said this, he suddenly raised his voice, and the sound penetrated the area and was heard by everyone present in the Nine Earth Manor. Yang Chen, you have cleaned house in my Pure Yang Palace, which is indeed a great service, I allow you to put forth any request that is not too excessive, to reward you for your great achievement. All of the 1,000 people present were startled about where the attack had come from, but the sudden voice of Pure Yang Palace's palace master caused a sensation in the Nine Earth Manor. As the palace master of the Pure Yang Palace and a Yuning expert just in regards of seniority, even compared to the hall masters of the Pure Yang Palace, he was higher by one level. Foundation stage inner disciples like Chu Heng and Du Qian also had to address him as elder. Even if they were already formal inner disciples, usually wanting to see the palace master's face was just an extravagant hope for them, apart from some important events or some other major affair, these disciples basically didn't have any opportunity to get in contact with the palace master. Just by his identity as the Pure Yang Palace's palace master, even showing concern for an outer disciple was already huge, this was already an unimaginable affair, let alone showing himself personally. The Nine Earth Manor's situation could be perfectly described by the words. Your presence brings light to my humble dwelling. But right now, the palace master had surprisingly promised to fulfill any request, how could this not stun people? This Yang Chen, what a lucky bastard he was. Everyone thought the same thing in their hearts. The palace master had agreed to fulfill a request, even though he had said that the request could not be too excessive, it still made all of the people there extremely frantic. Even if his status as the palace master was not taken into account, just speaking of his cultivation, he was still a Yuning stage expert. Regardless of whether it was a cultivation method, an elixir, a magic weapon or even asking to become his own direct disciple, none of these were truly excessive requests. It could easily be said that Yang Chen had leaped to the heavens in a single bound. There were some who were jealous, some who had mixed emotions and still more with many other kinds of emotions, but after seeing Yang Chen's performance, the inner disciples Chu Heng and Du Qian clearly belonged to the latter. The palace master's one-finger consonance was his method to send and receive messages from the mind. Even though he only attacked with his finger, Du Qian, Chu Heng and the other foundation disciples like them recognized that, if they were in Yang Chen's place, they would have never gotten off that lightly. But Yang Chen was only at the third Kai layer, he was one whole realm lower, yet he managed it easily, just like that. As long as one thought of what this implied, that the palace master had personally forced Yang Chen's movement, this was not too shocking. Everyone was looking at Yang Chen with an envious expressions, as long as Yang Chen opened his mouth to ask for anything, be it a cultivation method, elixirs, a magic weapon, heavenly materials and treasures, spell formations, or even asked to increase his cultivation, he just needed to say one word. Everyone was secretly pondering within their hearts what they would ask for if they were in his position. So naturally, they were even more curious about Yang Chen's choice. Disciple Yang Chen pays his respect to the palace master for permitting disciple to go to the immortal falling well. Yang Chen had naturally heard the palace master's voice, so in accordance with the palace master's words, Yang Chen freely spoke out his request. Once Yang Chen's words came out, it immediately gave rise to huge clamor. He had not asked for a magic weapon or a cultivation method, not even any other kind of treasures, only to visit the Immortal Falling Well. The majority of people in the Nine Earth Manor hadn't even heard this name before. The first thing that flashed through everyone's mind was just that the Immortal Falling Well was some kind of treasure house which held something which Yang Chen cared about, that's why he did not even hesitate when asking the palace master. But those who knew about the Immortal Falling Well sucked in a breath of cold air. The Immortal Falling Well, hearing the name immediately anyone would see that it was not a very safe area. Yang Chen unexpectedly wanted to go there, this was really out of people's expectations. Even the palace master, when hearing Yang Chen's request, could not help but wrinkle his brows. The few Foundation disciples had an even more disbelieving look, but with the palace master at the side, they didn't dare to say anything. But the palace master was still the palace master, he quickly overcame his astonishment and faintly laughed, then he opened his mouth to respond. Since you could resist an attack from my finger, you also have the qualifications to enter the Immortal Falling Well. This time, I will make an exception for you. He flipped his hand, and a small white jade tile appeared within his hand, he lightly threw the tile, and as if it was being carried by some invisible force, the tile flew away from the room towards Yang Chen on the training grounds. Go and prepare properly. Just as Yang Chen reached out to catch that white jade tile, he heard the palace master's voice, and hastily replied in loud voice. Yes. The following martial competition did not hold any more great surprises, with the sole exception of Gongsun Ling, who was at the 7th Kai layer, but challenged 3 8th and 2 9th Kai layer senior disciples, and had obtained victory in all of those challenges, making people gasp in admiration towards her skill. After giving the tile to Yang Chen, the palace master did not say anything else until the martial arts competition ended, afterwards he praised Gongsun Ling with a few words and departed. The palace master's departure also allowed the Nine Earth Manor, which had been tense for 2 days, to relax. Nobody could do anything about it, in the presence of the palace master, even the merit-transferring disciple Chu Heng did not dare to breathe heavily, let alone other people. Other than Yang Chen, the performance was very ordinary. After getting loosened up, people began to make discreet inquiries about what kind of place the Immortal Falling Well was and why Yang Chen would ask for a visit to the Immortal Falling Well. But after receiving the information about it, everyone was gobsmacked. The Immortal Falling Well was the region which provided the disciples of every sect with the strength of the Foundation stage or higher, an opportunity to temper themselves, and at the same time it was also the sole exit for underground spirit beasts to come above the ground. It was both a place for cultivation and a hub to subdue underground spirit beasts, while at the same time it was a good location to acquire spirit essence. Underground spirit beasts concerned the safety of the whole world, whereas the spirit essence was relevant to any sect spirit vein, therefore Immortal Falling Well was an extremely important region, so much so that every sect would send at least one Yuning expert to keep watch. The population of underground spirit beasts was enormous, furthermore they were born from the universe and had absolutely no wisdom and acted only on instinct. Regardless of what kind of things were used to obstruct them, huge flocks of underground spirit beasts would always find a way to swarm around and annihilate everything. Immortal Falling, these 2 words were actually a warning. The Immortal Falling Well was a very well-known deadly region within the cultivation world. Everyone was shocked at this, if someone wanted to go to the Immortal Falling Well, they had to have a strength of at least the Foundation stage, otherwise their sect would not issue the jade tile. If someone didn't have the command tile, they would not even be able to come in contact with the Immortal Falling Well's door, let alone going in. Although Yang Chen was at the 3rd Kai layer, he had asked the palace master to agree to let him enter the Immortal Falling Well. Though he had defeated Sun Haijing, but when all was said and done, Sun Haijing was still only a peak Kai layer cultivator, even if he was infinitely close to the Foundation stage's true strength, he had nevertheless not achieved it. Did Yang Chen intend to throw away his life? The only outer disciple who was not surprised by Yang Chen's decision was precisely Gongsun Ling. After the sect's martial arts competition, Gongsun Ling had immediately looked for Yang Chen to warn him to be careful, but she also did not forget to issue a challenge to Yang Chen. Younger disciple Yang, you are going to the Immortal Falling Well ahead of me, but just watch me, I will soon overtake you. Yang Chen was extremely happy by Gongsun Ling's challenge. This implied that Gongsun Ling was not going to immerse herself in painful cultivation and would not become a cultivation lunatic who did not know what was happening in the world, at that time she had instead become even more active. Very well. Yang Chen responded to Gongsun Ling's challenge. I will be waiting for you at the Immortal Falling Well. If you are enjoying the content, let a like, comment and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 54 Second Grade Pill Concocting Master. Do you really have to go to the Immortal Falling Well? Raising this question was Du Qian, who had always been considerate towards Yang Chen. He could not understand it. Yang Chen was a Kai layer disciple, but in the immortal falling well, even with the help of a flying sword, would he be able to obstruct or kill any underground spirit beasts? This kind of unwise action basically did not seem like Yang Chen's usual way of doing things. Naturally, Yang Chen smiled, holding out his hand in an inviting position to ask Du Qian to sit down in front of him, and at the same time he smilingly said. After asking for a request from the palace master, I cannot go back on it, right? Do you even know how dangerous the immortal falling well is? Du Qian was a disciple of the law enforcement hall and at the same time also had a cultivation of the peak foundation stage, yet until now he hadn't gone to the immortal falling well even once. Not everyone was fond of going to that kind of dangerous place to temper themselves. Uncle Master, I have already learned everything that is available in 9 Earth Manor's hidden pavilion, yet you ask whether I know or not. Du Qian was only concerned about him, for which Yang Chen appreciated him a lot, thus he was very respectful towards him, and so he rapidly replied. Anyway, the palace master said to prepare properly, and I also think that it would not be too late to go after I am genuinely prepared. Previously I had just fought for the qualifications, that's all. Yang Chen's words eased the worry in Du Qian's heart. Yang Chen thought that his idea of going against expectations by taking a step back was also a good move sometimes. It had to be known that, although the immortal falling well was a dangerous place, the advantages were quite plentiful, so, as long as he had trained therein for a few years and did not die, he would basically become a rich and powerful person, and therefore the qualifications to enter the immortal falling well was also a goal for which everyone competed. Yang Chen had obtained one place when he was still in the Kai realm, he had a lot of foresight indeed. This is also good, first snatching this qualification, then when you are at the foundation stage, it won't be too late to go. Du Qian nodded slightly and was appreciating his words, but soon afterwards, he saw Yang Chen's strange expression, and suddenly his heart was jolted, so he hastily asked. You don't plan to go there before reaching the foundation stage, right? Actually, Uncle Master, I had planned to leave after 2 months. Yang Chen told all of his plans to Du Qian without hiding anything with a smile. Hearing this, Du Qian didn't know whether to laugh or to cry. Even if you go with your current cultivation, you will not be able to pass the examination for new people, then what will be the point? Du Qian did not know what to say, only restraining the smile on his face, he sternly asked. You won't even be able to withstand the most low-leveled underground spirit beasts. Why do you want to throw your life away? I may not necessarily be throwing my life away, Uncle Master, have you forgotten, I still have the ability to concoct pills. Yang Chen didn't tell him all of his plans, he merely said the most reassuring words to Du Qian. But in the immortal falling well, even if there were only second-grade Yang Kai pills, many people would still appreciate them. If I have sufficient herbs, I will be able to exchange them for a lot of benefits. Second-grade Yang Kai pills. When Du Qian heard this name, he was greatly astonished. You can refine second-grade Yang Kai pills. Are you a second-grade pill concocting master now? Du Qian could not help but become shocked, even a majority of the foundation stage pill concocting masters could not refine second-grade Yang Kai pills, yet Yang Chen, who was just a minor Kai layer disciple, surprisingly already had the ability to refine second-grade Yang Kai pills. If this news was spread outside, then countless pill concocting masters would go mad. The first grade of concocting implied the ability to refine a pill 1 time, while the second grade meant that the pill could be refined twice, the effects would just double. The strongest pill concocting master could refine a pill 9 times. Generally speaking, refining a pill 9 times was considered the limit for the pill. Every improvement of 1 level would mean that the level of the pill would be increased by a huge margin, but unfortunately, this kind of increase was not all that easy. Even though Yang Chen had been a Great Principle Golden Immortal in his previous life, when he was at death's door, he was still just a minor 6th grade pill concocting master. Our rare high-grade pill concocting master's work could easily be seen from this. Even in this life, Zhu Chen Tao was the hall master of the medicine hall, but he was only a 3rd grade pill concocting master, and he had reached this realm just recently. But this was already an achievement which people could look up to. Countless people admired Zhu Chen Tao's pill concocting skills, he was an existence which could be called a genius. But at the moment, Du Qian was forced to admit that in a matter such as pill concocting, Zhu Chen Tao was just a nobody who was beyond redemption in front of Yang Chen. Of course, Du Qian did not dare to say this out loudly, but he was greatly startled and he unexpectedly even forgot Zhu Chen Tao's reputation in his mind. A 2nd grade elixir, especially an elixir like the Yang Kai pill, did not require Yang Chen to spend much energy. With the help of his profound spirit furnace, Yang Chen could easily accomplish this. If it were not that a 3rd grade elixir would shock the whole world, Yang Chen would have already started to refine it. Certainly, being a second-grade pill concocting master was the perfect shield for Yang Chen. Perhaps making his name at heavenly stairs would allow him to resist malicious outside influences for the time he remained within the Pure Yang Palace, but the reputation of a second-grade pill concocting master was far more dazzling when compared to any kind of cultivation talent. Moreover, it was also more secure. Experts of a sect may be willing to kill cultivation geniuses of another sect, but they would not easily offend a pill concocting master, even if he was merely a common first-grade pill concocting expert. Liu Qian departed hurriedly after confirming this. He had to inform the higher-ups of the sect about these world-shocking news. At the same time, he also felt grateful towards Yang Chen for telling only him about this. It was clearly a huge gift by Yang Chen to him. Within the Nine Earth Manor and the Yishu Manor, Du Qian had defended Yang Chen's name. He even did not hesitate to confront the merit-transferring disciple Chu Heng. This had made the higher-ups somewhat resentful towards him. Only after Yang Chen was able to produce the Shunkai pill did the higher-ups realize Yang Chen's worth. Now that Yang Chen had been able to become a second-grade pill concocting expert, after Du Qian would report it to the higher-ups, he would be thought of highly. As a person with foresight who works hard for the sect, the benefits would be tremendous. Within his own small courtyard, after giving pointers to his 4 servants, just as he had sat down to prepare and taken out the profound spirit furnace to maintain it, he immediately saw that on top of the peak of Mykan Mountain, a few rays of light were rising and flying towards him at lightning speed. With a smile on his face, Yang Chen put away the profound spirit furnace and afterwards calmly waited for them while keeping an eye on those rays of light. Soon, those rays of light appeared above the Nine Earth Manor. They appeared to be sword-shaped rays. As soon as those sword rays dropped down, within Yang Chen's small courtyard, the silhouettes of a few people could be seen. Before Yang Chen could clearly see who they were, Zhu Chentao's voice reached his ears. "Yang Chen, can you refine a second-grade pill?" "Yes, Uncle Master." Yang Chen hastily bowed and replied, and soon after that slowly raised his head. Only then did he discover that apart from Du Qian and Medicine Hall's Hallmaster, Zhu Chentao, surprisingly Pure Yang Palace's Palace Master himself, had also come to his small courtyard. Zhu Chentao had a very impatient nature, so hearing Yang Chen's words, he immediately fished out a great pile of herbs from his Qiankan pouch and piled them up in the courtyard and eagerly commanded. "Immediately refine them in front of my eyes." His voice was full of expectation and delight, as if he had never thought Yang Chen would lie. During the long time he had not met Yang Chen, it seemed as if Zhu Chentao's breath had grown even stronger. Although Yang Chen was not able to tell Zhu Chentao's current realm, he was certain that he had recently increased his strength. It could be said that Yang Chen's fire-controlling skill had allowed him to have an even deeper comprehension, only then could he have this kind of increase in strength. Although the palace master hadn't said anything, his gaze also contained a similar expectant look with strong praise. Yang Chen, this outer disciple, had already given him too many pleasant surprises. Apart from Medicine Hall's Hallmaster and Pure Yang Palace's Palace Master, Yang Chen also saw one more acquaintance, the Hallmaster of the Foreign Affairs Hall, Zhanxian. Meeting Yang Chen's gaze, Zhanxian also slightly nodded as if he was extremely delighted. Although the herbs were not equal to Yang Chen's profound Yang fruit in effect, but compared to ordinary materials used to refine Yang Kai pills, they were far superior. Yang Chen did not argue and took out the profound spirit furnace from his Qiankan pouch again, restored it to its ordinary dimensions, and placed it within the courtyard. He had intended to start the concoction on the spot. On one hand, Pure Yang Palace's Palace Master could also watch, and on the other hand, Yang Chen was absolutely not worried about any kind of mishaps. Looking at Yang Chen's profound spirit furnace, the Palace Master's and Zhu Chentao's eyes shone brightly. This had also confirmed to the Palace Master that Yang Chen did indeed have the strength to control and refine magic weapons, as this profound spirit furnace was precisely a magic weapon which had been refined. Moreover, it could only be refined by Yang Chen, otherwise it would not allow him to use it. The profound spirit furnace was a gift to Yang Chen by Zhu Chentao, so he naturally was aware about its appearance at that time. Zhu Chentao naturally knew that at that time the quality of this profound spirit furnace had increased, he could tell this with just a glance. Regarding this change produced by Yang Chen in the short period of a year, Zhu Chentao was greatly regretful that he had become so old. Yang Kai pill was a very low-level elixir, a normal first-grade Yang Kai pill is suited for the use of Kai realm disciples, moreover refining it was very easy, even Yang Chen's servant Holin, who did not have any great talent in concocting, had also refined a Yang Kai pill previously. Foundation stage experts have no interest in this kind of low-leveled pill. However, a second-grade Yang Kai pill was something entirely different. After being passed through refining once again, it was not any inferior to the Yuan cultivation pill used by foundation stage experts. Even the cost of production was lower and the efficacy was higher when compared to the yuan cultivation pill. Under the attentive gazes of the palace master and the two hall masters, Yang Chen was absolutely relaxed. After dealing with the pile of herbs, he entered them into the profound spirit furnace and started refining. In his previous life, Yang Chen had not refined a Yang Kai pill, but in this life he had already refined dozens of them. With the experience of 2 lifetimes, he knew it extremely well. The people who were standing on the side watched as Yang Chen held the profound spirit furnace with one hand and controlled the flames with the other hand as he was skillfully adding the herbs one by one. Seeing him work so calmly under such great pressure, all of the spectators nodded inwardly. It was the first time for the palace master to see Yang Chen's almost perfect control over fire. Zhu Chentao and Zhu Chengxin had already experienced this and were not all that amazed, but the palace master was watching with an earnest expression on his face. Nobody knew what he was thinking. In less than an hour, Yang Chen had already successfully refined the Yang Kai pill. The raw material prepared by Zhu Chentao were just enough for him to refine a furnace worth of first-grade Yang Kai pills. With his unique pill collecting skill, he took out those 100 Yang Kai pills from the furnace and after cleaning the residual waste left in the furnace, he once again returned those already refined first-grade Yang Kai pills into the furnace. This time, Yang Chen did not add any extra herbs, rather he used both hands to hold the handles of the profound spirit furnace and began to control the intensity of the flames. Slowly, the first-grade Yang Kai pills started to purify. Purifying the medicines was an extremely meticulous work, as long as one was even the least bit inattentive, the powerful flames could immediately burn down the herbs to ashes. Yang Chen had shown an unprecedented concentration. The spectators were all aware that this moment was very important, so they all held their breath for fear of disturbing Yang Chen. After all, Yang Chen was just a Kai layer disciple, but he had already accomplished a feat which not even a foundation stage expert could be certain about accomplishing. Naturally, they were all very careful. Yang Chen had required 8 hours for purification. Everyone present was a cultivator, so they didn't make many movements and accompanied Yang Chen from the beginning to the end. The extremely slender flames were nimbly rolling on the surface of the pills, and the spirit power that was circulated to enter into the furnace was leading these extremely small impurities out of the furnace. This process needed a whole 8 hours until it was completely finished. At that moment, Yang Chen used his usual technique to take out the pills and pull all of them out of the furnace and place them properly within a good jade bottle. After the refining had ended, Zhu Chentao impatiently rushed over to take the jade bottle from Yang Chen's hands. He popped out a few pills and gave one to the palace master and Zhu Chengxin each, while fiddling with another pill in his own hands from the large amount of pills he had in his hands. After being refined twice, the Yang Kai pill had shrunken in size, but its outer surface appeared extremely smooth and round, which gave quite a pleasant sensation when touched. On the pill's outer surface, 2 thin clear veins formed a circle coiling around the pill. The medicinal fragrance on the outside of the pill had decreased quite a bit, but that was actually because the outstanding and flowery smell was restrained to the inside. Zhu Chentao's method to test a pill was to throw it into his mouth. After consuming a second-grade Yang Kai pill, Zhu Chentao closed his eyes and began to carefully sense its medicinal strength. The palace master and Zhu Chengxin also stopped inspecting the pill and attentively watched Zhu Chentao, waiting for him to open his eyes. Plentiful spirit power and also rapidly spreading, I'm sure, this is a second-grade Yang Kai pill. After a short moment, Zhu Chentao opened his eyes and gave his judgment. Hearing this, a delighted look immediately appeared on the faces of palace master and Zhu Chengxin. Yang Chen, what kind of pills can you refine? The palace master asked, after being pleasantly surprised. Only Shun Kai pills and Yang Kai pills. Saying this, embarrassment immediately appeared on Yang Chen's face. As for other kinds of pills, I have only looked at their methods, but have never experimented. So, your spirit power and medicinal knowledge have all been mastered at the hidden pavilion, hasn't anyone taught you? The palace master nodded without making any further comments and continued to ask. Yes, palace master. Yang Chen nodded his head in agreement. This was an open secret at the Yishu Manor and Nine Earth Manor, not something which could be hidden. Moreover, Yang Chen also didn't want to pretend to be guided by Chu Heng. Be relieved and go to the Immortal Falling Well and remember to obtain a few spirit essences, they will be extremely beneficial for your immortal cave afterwards. The expression on the face of the palace master made it impossible to know what he was thinking, and his tone was also serene, only the last words have leaked some of his thoughts. From today, if anyone tries to speak out against your identity as an executioner again, directly kill him. If you are unable to kill him, then come back and inform the law enforcement hall and kill him with the help of the Pure Yang Palace. If you are enjoying the content, let a like, comment and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 55 I will follow only you. On the surface, the tone of the palace master's voice was absolutely normal, as if nothing happened, but within his heart, the palace master was cursing Chu Heng with a torrent of abuses. Liu Qian had reported Chu Heng's attitude towards Yang Chen some time ago already, but in the palace master's eyes, an inner disciple of the mid-foundation stage was far more valuable than someone who had just recently become an outer disciple and joined the Pure Yang Palace only 2 years ago. If Yang Chen was not able to persevere through this minor issue, that would only illustrate the fact that Yang Chen was a lump of rotten wood which could not be carved. But currently, without any guidance from anyone, just by relying on the knowledge he gained from the hidden pavilion, Yang Chen had already become a second-grade pill concocting expert. And as for his cultivation, not only had he reached the third Kai layer within the brief period of 3 years, but he had also already killed the peak Kai layer cultivator Sun Haijing, facing him head-on. In addition to that, it had been reported that several 6th and 7th Kai layers cultivators had fallen under Yang Chen's hand. If this kind of result had been due to Chu Heng's meticulous guidance, then the palace master would have naturally been delighted. But throughout these past 3 years, Chu Heng hadn't even said one word to guide him and had instead created innumerable obstacles for Yang Chen. Whether Yang Chen had learned to read or had gained enlightenment, it had all been due to his own efforts. Such a talented disciple, if he was at any other sect, he would certainly be guided and cultivated properly, but within the Pure Yang Palace, he had received this kind of treatment. How could the palace master, who was worried for the growth of the Pure Yang Palace every day, endure this? In his previous life, Yang Chen did not have a lot of contact with the palace master, so he did not know much about his character. As for the palace master's instructions, he only agreed to them because he could sense some of the anger the palace master held for his treatment. But Zhanxian and Zhu Chentao, who were familiar with the nature of the palace master, had sensed that deep-rooted anger within the palace master's voice. Both of them were also angry. The outer disciple's merit-transferring disciple would definitely have to take the consequences this time. Perhaps, this time even his uncle master, Liang Xiaoming, would not be able to help him. But these two didn't feel any sympathy for Chu Heng. They had a favorable impression of Yang Chen, so naturally they would not have a good attitude towards Chu Heng. Previously they were not aware that while cultivating, Yang Chen also had to face these kinds of circumstances. If they had known about this earlier, then Chu Heng would have already received what was coming for him and would not have gotten the chance to create such a situation at the sex martial competition. If Chu Heng said he didn't have his fingers in the meteoric rise of Sun Haijing's strength within those 3 months, who would believe it? There is also the matter of Yang Chen being attacked by assassins, which also had Chu Heng's secret support, otherwise how could Sun Haijing, a 4th Kai layer outer disciple, get the money to hire 7th and 8th Kai layer experts? These were naturally some important affairs which were investigated later, but the earlier words of the palace master allowed Yang Chen to be reassured and look to Pure Yang Palace's strength to support him so that he could cultivate at ease. Only Zhu Chentao thought that this was somewhat unfortunate. Yang Chen was a second-grade pill concocting master. If he concentrated on the Tao of pill concocting, he would certainly become a great pill concocting expert. Unfortunately, the palace master had already given Yang Chen permission to go to the Immortal Falling Well, otherwise Zhu Chentao would have confined Yang Chen and forced him to practice the Tao of pill concocting. The person who was most happy here, apart from these several high-class experts, was precisely Du Qian. The palace master's words towards Yang Chen implied that he would do his utmost to support Yang Chen. Perhaps this could not have happened without Du Qian's help. He estimated that the reward for this service would be of great benefit to him. To be able to help with the problems of Yang Chen, whom he appreciated, and also receiving great benefits. Du Qian greatly regretted that these kinds of misdeeds did not happen every day. Following this, Yang Chen immediately started gathering many different herbs for the Yang Kai pills, almost sweeping the market of the town nearby clean. After Zhu Chentao returned, he also gave a good amount of herbs and money to Yang Chen. Yang Chen's Qiankan pouch was completely packed with the materials to make Yang Kai pills, but he didn't stop buying them. Fortunately, he had the achievement ring, which was a magic tool with an infinite amount of space, so he could collect even more raw materials. Chu Heng had been removed from the position of merit-transferring disciple and had simultaneously been arranged by the Hallmaster of the Luminous Moon Hall to go to another famous fearful region, the Desolate Valley, to temper himself. The Luminous Moon Hall's inheritance was water attributed, but the Desolate Valley was a barren land where water was very rare. This kind of arrangement really exceeded the idea of a punishment. Naturally, this was also set under the palace master's watch. For the time being, Yang Chen did not pay much attention to Chu Heng, but this didn't mean that he would let Chu Heng get away with everything he had done. In any case, immortal cultivation was a long road. Yang Chen would have plenty of time later to slowly take his revenge. As for the present, his top priority was to immediately go to the Immortal Falling Well. The reason why Yang Chen wanted to hurry to the Immortal Falling Well was due to a secret of the Immortal Falling Well. In his previous life, Yang Chen had learned this secret only after ascending to the world of immortals from someone of the heavenly court. The immortal falling well, apart from having a large amount of high-level underground spirit beasts due to its unique topography, it also had a fire source, which would help Yang Chen's pill-concocting cultivation, the geocentric flame. The geocentric flame did not have formidable offensive power, but, at the moment it was most suitable for Yang Chen at this stage. As long as he was able to obtain this fire source, Yang Chen's fire-attributed cultivation would advance one more layer, and not only would his pill concoction become more proper, even for other tasks, like refining herbs, it would have great benefits. At the same time, the geocentric flame was able to enhance the grade of his profound spirit furnace. One has to know that the best way for the profound spirit furnace to increase in grade was by swallowing different fire sources. Initially Yang Chen would have only come here once he had properly attained the foundation stage, but the palace master had unexpectedly given him an opportunity to skip this process during the martial arts competition, so naturally Yang Chen immediately went to obtain the qualifications to enter the immortal falling well, to gain the considerable benefits it had to offer. Such as obtaining a large amount of spiritual essence. Before leaving, Yang Chen had to make arrangements for his servants and guide each one of them according to their character. He guided his third and fourth Kai layer servants under the pretense of having gained the knowledge from the hidden pavilion, so others couldn't say a thing. His servants had also resolved to not fall short. At the moment, Ho Lin's fire controlling skill had already increased by a large amount, her cultivation had also reached the peak of the third Kai layer, just one step away from making a breakthrough. Gu Qin had also followed Shen Da's footsteps and had entered the fourth Kai layer. The slowest of them was Ting Yuan, but although she was only at the third Kai layer, she was still able to refine low-level talisman tools. At the moment, these four servants had far greater ambitions when compared to the time when they were at the Yishu Manor. Even they had noticed that the sudden increase in Yang Chen's status would entail large benefits for them, such as an increased amount of time they had for cultivation when they previously had to do chores for the sect. After making the proper arrangements, Yang Chen departed from the Nine Earth Manor. But before going to the immortal falling well, he first had to visit the Yishu Manor, as he had made a promise to manager Wang Yuan that he would get him one profound Yang fruit. Congratulations, younger disciple Yang. Wang Yuan was the manager of the Yishu Manor, so he could not leave easily on a normal day. Every day he had been hearing more and more news about Yang Chen, so seeing Yang Chen today, he immediately cupped both hands to congratulate him. Yang Chen smiled in response to Wang Yuan's greetings and at the same time also cupped his hands towards Wang Yuan, saying, "Congratulations, senior disciple Wang, it seems that your strength has increased yet again." Wang Yuan had once again increased his strength when compared to the last time he had seen Yang Chen. Because he had the guarantee of receiving a profound Yang fruit from Yang Chen, he had gained some self-confidence. Initially he was just an 8th Kai layer cultivator, but at the moment, as if he had gained the highest level of enlightenment. He had already broken through to the 9th Kai layer and then immediately to the peak of the Kai realm, only one step away from the foundation stage. It was my good fortune that I was able to get younger disciple support. Wang Yuan was really grateful to Yang Chen. Originally he was the same as Shangyuan Feng, hopeless for reaching the foundation stage, that's why he was picked as the manager of the Yishu Manor. But Yang Chen's promise to give him a 1,000-year-old profound Yang fruit had ignited his desire to reach foundation stage again. Propelled by this force, within the brief period of a few years, his cultivation, which had stopped at the bottleneck, had suddenly advanced by leaps and bounds. After breaking through from his original boundary, he had rushed to the closest he could be to the foundation stage. After thinking about this carefully, Wang Yuan felt that, even if Yang Chen did not give him a 1,000-year-old profound Yang fruit, he was still confident in reaching the foundation stage within 10 years. However, when he looked at the bright red fruit in Yang Chen's hands, although Wang Yuan was already at the peak Kai realm and his mind had been tempered properly, yet he could not stop his heart from beating frantically within his chest. That fruit's color, shape and size, all were exactly the same as the 1,000-year profound Yang fruit which he had seen Yang Chen eating last time, but not only did everything look the same, it was actually a real profound Yang fruit. Yang Chen had not broken his promise and had really found a profound Yang fruit for him. "Senior disciple, this is the thing I promised to give to you." Yang Chen opened his hand sincerely and offered the 1,000-year profound Yang fruit to Wang Yuan and said with a smile on his face. "This time, because of the floating mountain assembly, I did not have much time to visit Senior, nor did I have many opportunity to delay along the way. I hope that Senior forgives me." Wang Yuan's hands trembled while receiving the 1,000-year-old pure Yang fruit. After receiving the pure Yang fruit he stayed rooted to the ground with a shaken mind, not knowing what to do next. Only after Yang Chen reminded him did he take out a jade box to store the fruit properly, and then he repeatedly expressed his thanks to Yang Chen. Never before had the foundation stage been so close to him, just one step away. His tremendous fortune still made him shiver slightly. Originally he was selected as the manager of Yishu Manor because he was considered as a clever and eloquent person, but at this moment he kept on talking stupidly, trying to express his gratefulness for Yang Chen. Within those stammering words, the word thanks was mixed in randomly, really proving that Wang Yuan had lost his self-control. Only after regaining his calmness with great difficulty in front of Yang Chen did Wang Yuan start to think about his future path. After receiving the profound Yang fruit, advancing to the foundation stage was not much of an issue. It would not be a long time before he would be able to become an official inner disciple. However, even among the inner disciples, there were quite a few factions. Basically, there were many palace halls and main halls, which had specific purposes pertaining to different aspects among each of them. Logically, Wang Yuan would be considered under the power of the palace hall or main hall which he would enter. But at the moment, looking at this extremely young and peak-level genius standing in front of him, Wang Yuan suddenly thought that perhaps following Yang Chen within the Pure Yang Palace would not be a bad path. Not to mention the fact that Yang Chen had already proven himself by ascending to the peak of the heavenly stairs, just by seeing the great value which Medicine Hall's hallmaster attached to him, he had already gotten some clues. For the past 2 years, the Yishu Manor had received a new type of pill, known as Shun Kai pill, for the preparatory disciples, which allowed them to sense Kai quite easily and start on the path of cultivation. Just this one pill had increased the number of outer disciples by 16 in the past 2 years, which was at least twice as many as usual. Whose contribution was this pill? Although this information was very tightly sealed, the manager of the Yishu Manor had still gotten many clues. All of this had happened only after Yang Chen entered the Nine Earth Manor. Added to that, his importance to the Medicine Hall's hallmaster. If Wang Yuan could still not guess the rest, then he would be a real fool. The person who had shown talent for either cultivation or concocting pills, regardless of what kind of person he was, everyone would put in great effort to curry favor with him, let alone Yang Chen, who was a natural genius in both of them. At the time when he made the prompt decision to accept the position of manager at the Yishu Manor, then when he saw Yang Chen holding the profound Yang fruit, he had decided to come to Yang Chen's side. From this it could be seen that Wang Yuan had a resolute and firm character. After absent-mindedly holding the profound Yang fruit for a moment, he immediately decided which path he had to choose. Younger disciple Yang, whatever sort of troubles you have later on, do not hesitate to inform me. As for all of the matters which this senior disciple has in the Pure Yang Palace, I will follow younger disciples' lead. Wang Yuan no longer spoke any more words of gratitude, instead he declared his devotion and loyalty to Yang Chen. These words were spoken very sincerely, without the slightest amount of contempt, because his cultivation was higher than Yang Chen's. I do not dare, senior disciple Wang, in the future, if there is a problem, we must support each other. These kinds of words must never be spoken again. Yang Chen politely declined. Wang Yuan made the promise and within his heart he became determined about this. These words would never be said again. If any kind of major affair occurred, he would follow Yang Chen's instructions. This time Yang Chen had helped him to become a foundation stage expert, maybe next time he could help him reach the Jidan stage. Yang Chen hadn't realized that he had unintentionally gained himself many faithful followers. After bidding farewell to Wang Yuan, Yang Chen started to move on the road to the Immortal Falling Well alone. If it were any other person, he would never know the location of the Immortal Falling Well without getting directions from someone, but Yang Chen was thoroughly aware of the way to the Immortal Falling Well. After he had traveled 1,000 miles after leaving the Miking Mountain, Yang Chen suddenly discovered that someone was apparently following him secretly, but this person was extremely clever and hadn't revealed the slightest bit of his presence. After detecting him, Yang Chen calmly turned into another direction. After spending 2 days riding on the bamboo falcon, he stopped at the edge of a deep pond at the very bottom of a hidden and not very well-known valley. After leisurely putting away the bamboo falcon, Yang Chen took out the commanding jade tile and inserted his spirit power into it. A circular sphere of light shrouded Yang Chen therein. Soon after that, without idling around, Yang Chen jumped into the pond and in flash he disappeared without a trace. After the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, the figure of a person appeared on the side of the abyss, knitting his brows and looking at the shady pond at the bottom of the valley. Thinking for a while, he put his hand into the water and when he found nothing unusual, after hesitating again and again, he jumped into the water and began to sink. After sinking by 10 meters, he felt no peculiarity, but he still couldn't see the end of the pond and it was very dark to look at. The sinking person felt quite relieved and using his spirit power, he once again began to dive. Just as he thought that he could overtake Yang Chen very easily, something strange suddenly happened. If you are enjoying the content, let a like, comment and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 56. Is this a place for you to play around? The spiritual awareness of the person who was following Yang Chen was focused on tracking Yang Chen's figure, so he hadn't discovered that within the water, a very long ribbon was floating silently. When he had discovered that there was something strange about the surrounding water, it was already too late. The long ribbon suddenly rushed towards him, tightly winding around his body. In a moment, his flying sword appeared before him, but before he could use it, he suddenly felt as if he had been stabbed in his neck, and he suddenly sensed that his whole body had been bound tightly. The fierce pain did not let him notice that he had lost control over his flying sword. In a moment, the sword ray was seen flying away from his body, then it came to halt within the water, and soon the sword ray started flickering and slowly started to sink down. He wanted to use his strength to resist that large amount of constrictive force, but to his despair, he found that he was unable to make his body move, as if, apart from the sensation of pain, he had no awareness of his body. He had clearly seen that the ribbon-like thing which was twisting around him was a slender python with black stripes on dark green-colored skin, making it totally blend in with the water. The poisonous python was not very thick, but it still had the breath of a demonic beast. But its breath was completely hidden. If it were not attacking him, the person who pursued Yang Chen could basically not discover it. Not only was the poisonous python wrapped around him, but it was also very possible that it had already bitten him. The pursuer had given up all the hopes. He still couldn't understand why had Yang Chen jumped into this region. This was not the entrance of Immortal Falling Well. Could it be he wanted to throw away his life? During his despair, he suddenly found that the flying sword which had been sinking had slowly started to rise again. Looking at the familiar flying sword, hope began to shine within the eyes of the pursuer. But, when he saw his flying sword in the hands of Yang Chen, his hope immediately turned into despair. Yang Chen was standing some distance away from him, shrouded in a dazzling light, and with the flying sword in one hand, his entire self was wrapped within the faint radiance of the command tile, even his clothes hadn't become wet. In the other hand, he was holding something and was rushing towards the pursuer. The pursuer could clearly see that it was the commonly used great medicine, 5-colored zoysia, used to detoxify the poison of the highly toxic demonic python. Furthermore, it was a whole batch of many years old 5-colored zoysia. Looking at the 5-colored zoysia within Yang Chen's hand, the pursuer became hopeful once again, but he was unable to say anything. He only could increase the pain showing on his face, with an expression that was begging Yang Chen to rescue him. Until now he had not understood why Yang Chen had not been attacked by the demonic python, but instead he, who had a higher cultivation than him, had become the prey. "Sorry, I never save those who harbor malicious intent towards me," Yang Chen said, while observing the begging expression on the pursuer's face and slightly shook his head, following which, Yang Chen's voice reached the ears of the pursuer. Hearing this, his hopes were shattered again, and he abandoned all hopes of living. At this moment he stopped his futile resistance. Soon the pursuer heard the sound of breaking bones, and a moment later, the view in front of him turned dark, with the exception of 2 fierce teeth. In a flash, those teeth entered into his flesh and he lost consciousness. Then the demonic python swallowed the pursuer completely, but Yang Chen was still observing all of this motionlessly, as if he was not the least bit worried that the python might attack him. After the python swallowed the pursuer, it started roaming around within the water. Its gaze swept across Yang Chen once, but as if it had seen something terrifying, it did not dare to come near him. It seemed as if it was fidgeting for some time, but afterwards it turned around in a circle towards another direction, before it suddenly opened its mouth and spat out the Qianqin pouch and the jade belt of the pursuer, whom it had just swallowed. After spitting it out, a sound was once again heard from the body of the demonic python. It sounded like chug-chug, and as if something had shattered into pieces, the thick swell in its body became normal again. Apparently it had finally been relieved. It glanced at Yang Chen again, but soon it silently turned around and disappeared to the bottom of the pond. Wishing to digest this kind of defensive magic weapon, truly overestimating yourself. Yang Chen mumbled to himself, immediately grabbed the jade band and the Qianqin pouch, and then started to float upwards rapidly. Soon after he began his ascent, he finally broke through the surface of the water and landed on the shore nearby. This was not an entrance to the Immortal Falling Well, but according to Yang Chen's memory, this was the ancient nest of a demonic python, which had stirred up trouble 2,000 years in the future, when he was ascending in his past life. But that was still an affair, 2,000 years from now. At the moment it had not become powerful enough. Within the medicine garden which Yang Chen possessed, there were numerous herbs that had matured for many years, which could resist the demonic python. That's why the demonic python had not attacked Yang Chen. But even though it had not yet become powerful enough to stir up big trouble, to deal with a mere foundation stage expert, it still had more than enough power. In addition to that, the spiritual awareness of the pursuer was mainly focused on Yang Chen, so the demonic python was able to attack him sneakily and bite him, releasing the highly toxic poison into his body, which reduced the pursuer's ability to resist even further. What an unfortunate guy, just because of his undue curiosity and the arrogance he had because of his higher cultivation when compared with Yang Chen, making him think he could easily take Yang Chen's life at any time, he had been led to the mouth of death by Yang Chen. The flying sword, because the spiritual awareness of its master had completely faded away, had sunken down as an ownerless object and had easily been marked with Yang Chen's spiritual awareness and was then added to the sword box. This great flying sword, Yang Chen would not even look at it and had only used it to increase his collection. The five-colored zoysia was a sacred thing for detoxification, most of all the zoysia which had been born from a 1,000-year matured demonic python. The higher the toxicity of the demonic python, the better is its detoxification effect. As soon as the demonic python had bitten him, the foundation stage follower had immediately lost control over his flying sword. From this it could be clearly seen that its toxicity was very high, so naturally the zoysia which Yang Chen had obtained could be considered as the best among the best. The jade belt was the item Yang Chen was most interested in. Even after the demonic python had swallowed it, it was not able to subdue it and could only spit it out for Yang Chen's convenience. This was clearly a very good defensive magic tool. It was the same as the flying sword, a magic tool, but it was specialized on defense. Yang Chen used his spiritual awareness to probe it, only to find that it was surprisingly a refined defensive magic item with a fire jade rock spell. Because the highest quality of fire jade was used as raw material and combined with the earth-attributed rock spell formation, as long as one inserts his spirit power into it, it would immediately enclose the body with a protective spell formation. At the moment, Yang Chen lacked this kind of defensive magic item. Although it was not very powerful, it could still take one strike from an initial foundation stage expert. Having this fire jade belt, Yang Chen could add a layer of security. Throwing the Qianqin pouch into his achievement ring, Yang Chen started to process it with the universal treasure raising secrets and then wore it on his body. The raw materials used to make it were very good, but unfortunately Yang Chen's cultivation was lacking by too much, otherwise he would have immediately used the Heavenly Star's treasure refining secrets to refine it and it certainly would have become a top-grade magic item. After obtaining this jade fire belt, Yang Chen's combat prowess had increased by an entire level. Feeling relieved, he searched for a proper region at the side of the demonic python's nest and began to search through that person's Qianqin pouch. That Qianqin pouch was manufactured by the Greatest Heaven Sect, which could be seen clearly by the mark of the Greatest Heaven Sect on it. Before this, Yang Chen did not know to which sect the pursuer belonged, but after seeing this mark, Yang Chen understood clearly. In this life, there was still some time left before he incited the Greatest Heaven Sect, then why was the Greatest Heaven Sect coming again and again, knocking at his door? This kind of thing made Yang Chen furious. Could it be because of the body refining pill he received from Shy Fairy at the execution ground? If that was the cause for a foundation stage expert to spare no expenses for killing him, then weren't the people of the Greatest Heaven Sect too excessive? Could it be because of the affair of crippling the Jiedan stage experts at the Heavenly Stairs last time? Yang Chen thought deeply about this and felt that this was the only probable reason. Even if Greatest Heaven Sect was very strong and could be called the strongest sect within the cultivation world, it could still not bear the loss of a few Jiedan experts at the assembly for Kai Layer disciples. Many people were aware that Yang Chen had left for the Immortal Falling Well, clearly word of it had also reached the Greatest Heaven Sect. Perhaps they were not clear about why Yang Chen was doing this, but after the Palace Master of the Pure Yang Palace, as well as the Medicine Hall's Hallmaster and the Foreign Affair Hall's Hallmaster, had collectively hurried to Yang Chen's small courtyard, so they knew that, clearly, some kind of important development had occurred. There was also Chu Heng. He would probably not conceal any affair that took place at the Nine Earth Manor from the Greatest Heaven Sect. Even if he did not know the exact details, he could still approximately surmise what was going on. Since Medicine Hall's Hallmaster Zhu Chen Tao had personally appeared, this clearly had something to do with pill concocting. As for people of the Greatest Heaven Sect, Yang Chen could kill them without any burden to his heart. This person was not even killed by Yang Chen, he had just gone to look for a five-colored zoysia, yet that person insisted on chasing him secretly. Could he still blame Yang Chen for not warning him? Within the Qianqin pouch, there were no magic weapons, but rather it had several hundred caddies of spirit stones. It seemed to Yang Chen that this guy, who was a foundation stage expert, was a poor wretch. Apart from Fire Jade Belt and his flying sword, this guy had nothing at the grade of magic tools. As for talisman tools and talisman gems, Yang Chen didn't find any. But he did have several herbs, which made Yang Chen delighted. They were matured for approximately 100 years. Although they did not have any great value, they would still have a pretty good medicinal strength, just enough to allow Yang Chen to refine a few furnaces worth of good medicines. There were still a few lumps of lower quality ores, but they were also not any great rarities, merely ranging between medium to high grade raw materials, but they would be slightly useful for refining the profound spirit furnace, so still better than nothing. The only thing that made Yang Chen really happy were the jade slips it contained. Yang Chen carefully picked them up and started to examine them one by one, using his spiritual awareness. There were a few pill recipes, one of them was for the yin and yang nature pill, which was refined by using thousand-year ginseng as the main herb. This pill was very useful for foundation stage disciples. Unfortunately, Yang Chen already knew the recipe for the pill, so this didn't have any real significance to him. Furthermore, a foundation stage pill's recipe was meaningless to him. The Emperor Profound Earth Secrets was the greatest Heaven Sex Yang Earth attribute cultivation method. It was the best Earth attributed cultivation method for the foundation stage or lower. The word Emperor also stood for the meaning peak. Compared to the 5th Earth cultivation method in which Yang Chen currently trained in, its grade was higher by a great margin. Yang Chen simply went mad with joy after seeing this. Originally, Yang Chen's 5 phases of yin and yang secrets were different kinds of cultivation methods put together, so after obtaining these Emperor Profound Earth secrets, Yang Chen immediately wanted to change the cultivation method he used for cultivating 5th Earth originally, but Yang Chen managed to restrain himself and began to look at the rest of the jade slips. There also were 2 scrolls of spell diagrams, both were earth attributed and attached most importance to defense. One of them was precisely the rock spell which was on the fire jade belt, and the other one was also very ordinary, so Yang Chen put them away. Finally, on the one last jade slip, there was a record of all the herbs and ores known to the greatest heaven sect and describing the method used to refine them. Compared to the records held by the Pure Yang Palace, this was far superior. After all, the greatest heaven sect was the number 1 sect, compared to a second-grade sect, such as Pure Yang Palace, the knowledge they had was much deeper. Unfortunately, it was still not of much use to Yang Chen. Only after checking out everything did Yang Chen pick up the Profound Emperor Earth Secrets once again and began to comprehend the content written within. In his previous life, Yang Chen hadn't cultivated Earth-attributed cultivation methods, so he was extremely careful. Once he began to cultivate the most basic one of these cultivation method, he did not need to care about it a lot. But the Profound Emperor Earth Secrets were a high-grade cultivation method, so he first had to comprehend and link it together before he could begin cultivating. It was not a cultivation method for everyone, it could easily be memorized with just one look at, but everyone has their own understanding and comprehension. Even the people who had produced this spell could not use exact words to describe everything precisely, as everything depended on the cultivator's own perception. That's why this time Yang Chen was very cautious and only began cultivating it after taking 10 days to understand it properly. Fortunately, for a disciple who already had a different cultivation method as his foundation, the Profound Emperor Earth Secrets would rapidly complete one heavenly circulation and begin to replace the original foundation cultivation method. The 5 phases of yin and yang secrets began to rotate, so Yang Chen had no option but to start controlling the Emperor Profound Earth Secrets so that it would remain in equilibrium with the other cultivation methods. But a high-level cultivation method would increase the overall cultivation efficiency, so immediately after Yang Chen achieved equilibrium, the rate of spirit power accumulation had increased by at least 2 times. At the moment, among Yang Chen's 5 phases of yin and yang secrets, 3 of them were already high-grade cultivation methods, including the 3rd and 4th fire cultivation methods, and the recently acquired Profound Emperor Earth Secrets. He was convinced that, if all of the 10 types of cultivation method were replaced with high-grade cultivation methods, his cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds. Yang Chen had stayed here for half a month, taking care of the pursuer and cultivating. After finishing everything, Yang Chen leisurely mounted the bamboo falcon and rushed to the Immortal Falling Wells entrance valley. After reaching there, he inserted spirit power into the tile, and rays of light from the commanding tile began to quickly envelop Yang Chen's whole body, and soon Yang Chen was wrapped up in a ball of light and began to slowly sink into the ground. The Immortal Falling Well, the only exit for the underground spirit beasts, was basically below the ground. A spell formation arranged here allowed the people who had the command tile to enter. Newcomer. Very quickly, Yang Chen appeared within a stone room. All 6 surfaces were made of stone, and there wasn't anyone present in the stone room except for Yang Chen, but after a moment, a sound echoed within Yang Chen's ears. Which sect? Announce your identity. Outer disciple of the Pure Yang Palace, Yang Chen. Yang Chen was aware of this rule, so naturally he declared his status. Outer disciple. Kai Realm. The owner of the voice clearly hadn't anticipated Yang Chen's cultivation, he was somewhat taken aback, and astonishment was clear within his voice. An outer disciple of the Pure Yang Palace. Suddenly another voice echoed in Yang Chen's ears. The trifling Kai stage cultivator, is this Immortal Falling Well a place where you can come to play around? If you are enjoying the content, let a like, comment and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 57. If you speak false words, you must pay the price. This Yang Chen requests to see the Great Master. Yang Chen said this as he cupped his hands, facing towards where the voice had come from. Although the tone of the other party was very rude, it gave Yang Chen a familiar feeling, only he could not remember who it was. Humph. But that cold snort, the stone wall in front of Yang Chen suddenly disappeared and he found himself standing on an empty flat ground. There was no sunshine here, but above his head he could see the lights of night pearls, which provided the lighting here. Although it was not as bright as sunshine, for cultivators it was already sufficient to see everything. In front of Yang Chen, 4 people were standing in a row, including both the person who had snorted and the one who had spoken. Yang Chen knew that these were the gatekeepers of the Immortal Falling Wells entrance. The gatekeepers have always included the elite disciples from every sect. These defenders were at least at the foundation stage, and together with the entrance bell formation, they were strong enough to resist Zhanxian stage experts. Among the 4 people, Yang Chen remembered 3 of them from his past life, only of one he didn't have any impression of. Now Yang Chen had already determined who the person that had snorted was. In his previous life, this guy had chose to kill Yang Chen, and he was a disciple of Tianquan sect, known as Jin Tao. At that time, he was at the peak of the Zhanxian stage, but currently he was only at the peak of foundation stage. He had tried to kill him in his previous life because of the orders of the greatest heaven sect, but right now Jin Tao did not have any reason to show this kind of attitude towards Yang Chen. But Yang Chen immediately remembered that at the Floating Mountain Assembly, he had killed Han Giant, a disciple of the Tianquan sect, as well as forcing a Zhanxian expert of the sect to lose a layer of cultivation. Perhaps this was the reason. This is the Immortal Falling Well, can Kai layer disciples not come here? At this moment, Yang Chen began to pretend to be stupid and filled with surprise, taking on the appearance of a country bumpkin who did not know the rules of society. He was looking around everywhere, sizing up all of his surroundings, and after looking for quite a while, his gaze moved to the 4 people with fear and trepidation on his face, appearing as if he was unwilling to accept this. The Immortal Falling Well is not a place where a trifling Kai layer disciple like you can come. Jin Tao continued to speak as before. You don't have the qualifications. This Pure Yang Palace has become more and more outrageous and surprisingly even gave the command tile to a Kai realm disciple. Jin Tao's tone was extremely arrogant even when he was talking about the Pure Yang Palace. Apart from Yang Chen, a minor Kai layer disciple, there was nobody else of the Pure Yang Palace here, so even if he was a little arrogant, there would still not be any serious consequences. The crucial point was that he wanted to vent his sect's resentment. Disciple Yang Chen pays his respects to Elder Wu. There was no difference on Yang Chen's face, just an expression of strong veneration. This gesture was directed at the constantly taunting Jin Tao, who hurried to move out of the way. Yang Chen's words made these people very confused, but nobody dared to accept Yang Chen's gesture. Yang Chen had made it absolutely clear that he was paying his respects to Elder Wu. In the Immortal Falling Well, there was only one Elder Wu, and he was precisely one of the 5 powerful elders elected by every sect to keep watch over the Immortal Falling Well. The 5 formidable elders also used to have one loose cultivator, but due to his astonishing comprehension and innate skill, he had already cultivated to the Dacheng stage. Because of his good moral character and exceedingly powerful strength, he was an overseer of the Immortal Falling Well and simultaneously also the person who would handle different matters at the Immortal Falling Well. All of the rules of the Immortal Falling Well had been drawn by these 5 formidable elders, so no one dared to defy them. Even though Jin Tao was very arrogant, he still did not dare to accept Yang Chen's act of paying his respects to Elder Wu, otherwise he would not even need the people of the Immortal Falling Well to take care of him. As long as the sect leader of the Tianquan sect heard about it, he would immediately have Jin Tao's cultivation crippled and evict him from the sect. And this was already the lightest punishment. Are you not Elder Wu? Yang Chen said after Jin Tao had bent over and dodged out of the way. I never said that I am Elder Wu. Jin Tao coldly snorted again. The 4 people did not know that Yang Chen was acting. Has the Immortal Falling Well changed its rules? The world sect leaders don't know anything about this. At least my Pure Yang Palace's sect leader did not tell me at the time of giving me the command tile that Kai layer disciples cannot go to the Immortal Falling Well. Yang Chen was staring at Jin Tao, suddenly he smiled and said. I have researched many ancient records, but still didn't find that the Immortal Falling Well had this kind of rule. So I believe this is a new rule of the Immortal Falling Well. For such a change in the rules, apart from a bigger sect master, it seems only one of the 5 formidable elders can do this. Since you are not Elder Wu, then there is no use for me to say many words. Yang Chen cupped his hands again. This young disciple will leave immediately, I have to make a report of the new rule to my palace master. After he finished speaking, a faint light from the command tile enveloped Yang Chen again, preparing for him to leave. Wait a moment. Including Jin Tao, the 4 people on the scene were scared stiff. The Immortal Falling Well had never had this kind of rule, it was only that Jin Tao had heard Yang Chen's name in a bad light, therefore he subconsciously wanted to suppress him, but he hadn't thought that Yang Chen would get cold feet. If they allowed Yang Chen to leave and he informed the palace master of the Pure Yang Palace, then these 4 people would surely be annihilated without leaving an intact corpse. These 4 did not dare to slide him and hastily obstructed Yang Chen, but Jin Tao came forward one step and said in a loud voice. Yang Chen, you piece of shit, you want to falsely accuse us, do you know what kind of sin this is? Piece of shit. Yang Chen smiled. How come? He flashed his hand and a sound-storing rock appeared in his hand. Immediately the conversation between Jin Tao and Yang Chen resounded within everyone's ears. From Yang Chen asking whether a Kai realm disciple could not enter the Immortal Falling Well to Jin Tao's arrogant reply, everything was clearly recorded without even missing a single word. Listening to this conversation, the complexion of all 4 immediately paled. Yang Chen had the command tile and had been recorded from the moment he entered, so he was neither an invading demon, nor had he broken any rules. So right now, even if they wanted to forcibly take away the sound-storing stone from Yang Chen's hands, it was impossible. Their responsibility was guarding the door, not to attack humans. Indeed, with this sound-storing rock, as long as Yang Chen returned and let the palace master of the Pure Yang Palace hear it, Jin Tao would certainly be in great trouble, taking down the other 3 with him, because they were also at the scene, but hadn't corrected Jin Tao's mistake, so they would surely be accused of the same crime. The rules of the Immortal Falling Well, how could a trifling foundation stage cultivator like Jin Tao make absurd suggestions about them? The only responsibility of the gatekeepers was to defend the entrance, as long as they authenticated the command tiles and people didn't break any rules, the defenders could not dare to casually punish them, that was a taboo. Even if the Tianquan sect greatly cared about Jin Tao, they could still not dare to offend these 5 formidable elders. This was not just a problem of saving face, but it was also for the benefit of the large number of sects involved. If they really let Yang Chen turn away and leave, these 4 could absolutely not handle the consequences. Among the 4 people, one of them was very agile, it was the person whom Yang Chen did not recognize. Suddenly, with a big stride forward, he reached out his hand to grab Yang Chen's arm and said. Just a joke. It was just a joke, younger disciple Yang should not bother about it. It was not that he was apologizing, rather the sound-storing rock was no longer in Yang Chen's hand, he wanted to grab it but was not able to, so he could only use these sweet words to make Yang Chen stay. As long as Yang Chen did not report anything, these 4 would naturally not have any problems. This guy had pulled Yang Chen with a smile, but his gaze swept to Jin Tao's face, indicating him to do something. After all, he was only a spectator, and the real offender in this case was Jin Tao. This glance was precisely to ask Jin Tao to resolve the situation. How could Jin Tao have foreseen this? His unintentional words would unexpectedly be used against him by this repulsive youngster in front of him, by storing them in a sound-storing rock. If someone on the outside heard this, he certainly would lose all of his face. Maybe he could kill him some other time, but breaking any rules right now is absolutely out of question. The Immortal Falling Well was a place where lives were lost to accidents all the time. Not to mention the fact that Jin Tao was only a foundation stage youngster, even if he was Yuning expert breaking the rules, he would still be chased and killed by the 5 formidable elders, without getting a chance to escape. The Immortal Falling Well was a strategic location, in case an accident happens here, who would take responsibility for the subsequent loss of life? Even during an ordinary day, everyone had to be careful, breaking rules here was just courting death. We were joking. The smile on Yang Chen's face was so false that even he himself noticed it. Not bothering to conceal his greed, he asked. These words, do they mean that a minor Kai layer disciple like me can indeed enter the Immortal Falling Well? Naturally you can. The person pulling Yang Chen's arm smilingly repeated what he said and afterwards released his arm. Jin Tao had already come over and this was precisely Jin Tao's problem to deal with. Anyway, if they really couldn't come to an agreement, they could also not be blamed as the culprits. But that expression on Yang Chen's face, anyone could see what he wanted, the one who had caused this trouble had to resolve it, all of them were clever, so they all clearly understood this. Unfortunately, at the moment, Jin Tao had committed such a foolish mistake. The rock within Yang Chen's hand could immediately strip him of his life, even if Jin Tao could not bear to stand the sight of Yang Chen, even if Yang Chen had killed a disciple of the Tianquan sect at the heavenly stairs and had harmed a Jedan expert of the sect, currently he could only swallow his anger. The other people had already disappeared, but this meant that in whatever way Jin Tao deals with the situation, they would all not have seen it. At the same time, it also meant that whatever happened here had nothing to do with them. Naturally, at the Immortal Falling Well, Jin Tao could not attack Yang Chen, so he could only gnash his teeth and apologize. Younger disciple Yang, what happened just a moment ago was a joke, by all means you must not take it seriously. Jin Tao's attitude had become quite pleasant, even addressing him as younger disciple Yang like the other person just a moment ago. Usually when outer disciples at the Kai realm met with him, they would all address him suitably as Uncle Master or Master, but currently, for no reason, he had to apologize, only so that Yang Chen would not be bothered and did not make the report. When I heard senior disciple's tone just then, it did not seem like a joke. Suddenly Yang Chen's expressions became serious. The change in expressions was so fast, it was as if he was an actor. Indeed, younger disciple Yang, you are not aware of the difficulties here, I just didn't want you to suffer any losses. Jin Tao acted as if he had not seen the hostile expressions on Yang Chen's face, and without the smallest change in complexion, he kept on smiling and said. It just so happens that elder disciple here has a good object which is suitable for younger disciple Yang, you should take a look at it. While speaking, Jin Tao fished out a small and exquisite tin hawk from his Qianqin pouch. He directly stuffed it into Yang Chen's hand and said. This is a magic tool refined by this senior disciple, it is knitted from black ice natural silk, compared to your bamboo falcon, it is a bit faster. Younger disciple should not hesitate to take it. This guy was not so easy to deal with, looking at Jin Tao who was smilingly facing his own cold expression, Yang Chen immediately understood this. The other three were also like this, but they didn't give Yang Chen any reason to flare up. It's just a little bit quicker, so is it any use in here? Though Yang Chen had said this, his hand showed no restraint in taking the silk falcon and putting it into his Qianqin pouch, exposing a smile on his face, while he smilingly said. Actually, senior disciple, I have only come to the Immortal Falling Well this time, in order to obtain some of the 5 phases spirit essences, that's all, can senior disciple bestow me with 1,800 pieces to broaden younger disciples' horizons. Hearing Yang Chen's words, Jin Tao almost spat blood. Of the people coming to the Immortal Falling Well, who did not come to look for spirit essences? What was Yang Chen saying? The question is, where could anyone find spirit essences that easily to be able to casually bestow 1,800 to someone? Jin Tao had stayed here for 4 years and still had only found 3,000 pieces, how could he bestow 1,800 of them to Yang Chen? He did not have enough for himself, so giving them to Yang Chen as a sign of good faith was clearly not possible. Within Jin Tao's gaze flashed a trace of seriousness, but it was merely a flash, then it turned into that pleasant gaze again. Laughingly he took out 200 multicolored crystal chunks and forced himself to put them into Yang Chen's hand. Younger disciple, is getting spirit essences that easy? First you take this and if it is still not sufficient then ask again afterwards. Jin Tao continued and did not bother to haggle anymore and said. First you should get a good place to settle in the Immortal Falling Well. Senior disciple will later take you to kill a few underground spirit beasts. Once you kill them, you will be able to obtain many more essences, haha. Yang Chen did still not show any restraint, like before. In any case, Jin Tao's slip of the tongue had caused him pay a price of 200 pieces of spirit essence, surely his heart would be aching too much. But Yang Chen also knew when to stop. He immediately assumed an absolutely satisfied expression and laughingly said. Since senior disciple is offering, then it would be impolite of me to refuse. Younger disciple, what about that sound storing rock? As soon as Yang Chen had put away those spirit essences in his Qianqin pouch, Jin Tao again smilingly asked. Oh, where's my memory? Yang Chen slapped his own head and took out the sound storing rock from his Qianqin pouch and gave it to Jin Tao. Younger disciple will also consider this as a joke, do not worry, senior disciple. Jin Tao had finally obtained the sound storing rock once he passed his spirit power through it and heard that the contents were exactly the conversation between him and Yang Chen, he immediately destroyed it. Only after taking care of everything did Jin Tao relax. When his eyes met with Yang Chen's gaze, it seemed as if he had become even more kind-hearted. This is younger disciple's first time here, this senior disciple must teach you the rules. Otherwise if you mistakenly break a rule, you may sustain injuries or could even lose your life, younger disciple must by all means not neglect it. After resolving the dispute, Jin Tao became more and more intimate with Yang Chen, as if he had no discord with him. I request senior disciple to give me some pointers. Yang Chen smiled while cupping his hands together, but within his heart he didn't care about it in the slightest. I am not going to keep you in dark, this is the only entrance to the Immortal Falling Well. The spirit beasts of this Immortal Falling Wells cannot be defeated that casually. Jin Tao smilingly continued. Every person who comes to the Immortal Falling Well has to learn how to defeat these underground spirit beasts for several days. Only after they have killed one underground spirit beast alone can they genuinely enter the Immortal Falling Cave. Younger disciple must follow me for a few days to learn. As soon as you can kill an underground spirit beast, it will still not be too late to enter the immortal falling well afterwards. If you are enjoying the content, let a like, comment and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 58. Thanks to senior disciple for his consideration. These words of Jin Tao had a basis and were not a violation of the rules in the slightest. Newcomers at the immortal falling well first had to receive the guidance of experienced people, and only then could they enter the real battleground of the immortal falling well. This was a rule, jointly established by the five formidable elders and the sect masters of all sects. The purpose of this rule was to prevent casualties among newcomers who did not know about the characteristics of the underground spirit beasts. The reason was completely rational, and the rule was also completely faultless without any loopholes to bypass it. Yang Chen didn't decline Jin Tao's proposal, despite already being familiar with underground spirit beasts. But Yang Chen didn't put down his guard because of Jin Tao's enthusiastic proposal. He was not so naive to think that, since he had already obtained evidence of Jin Tao's wrongdoing, he could do whatever he pleased. A foundation stage expert who was blackmailed by a Kai-layer disciple would not be so delighted to help him. Clearly there was some kind of scheme behind this. Very soon, under Jin Tao's arrangements, Yang Chen entered Lilu village, situated at the entrance of the immortal falling well. Lilu village was the main hub for replenishing the supplies of cultivators who were entering the immortal falling well. Although Lilu village was situated at the mouth of the immortal falling well's entrance, it was still included in its spell formation. Just in front of the entrance spell formation was Lilu village. The village was also situated underground and similar to the entrance. Overhead of it were night pearls, the size of human heads, illuminating the village almost as if it was daytime. This kind of extravagance, even if it was the ruler of a country within the mortal world, he would still not be able to present something like this, but in here nobody even cared to look at them. There were many houses, but all of them were very simple and crude. What surprised most people was that the spiritual influence was much thicker here when compared to the outside. Cultivating here was much more effective in comparison. Unfortunately, a person could only remain inside of the immortal falling well for at most 10 years. After 10 years, they could not enter again. This was in order to balance out the steps each sect had taken to gain control over the well. The Lilu village was an important supply center for the cultivators entering the immortal falling well, as this was neither their home nor their own sect, only a supply center. The village itself was a big market. As long as one could enter here, one could conduct business. The transactions, however, were not done like in the world above, using spirit stones, but instead the spirit essences from the bodies of underground spirit beasts were used. The spirit essence of the 5 phases was the essence which formed inside of the bodies of underground spirit beasts, thus, when they solidified, they became spirit essences. Compared to spirit stones which were measured in weight, spirit essences were measured by the number of pieces. All spirit essences have the same size and weight. Only the color of the spirit essence was different between the 5 phases, otherwise they were identical. Spirit stones could offer spirit power, and they could also be used for cultivation. Spirit essences on the other hand had only one use, that was precisely to increase the rate of spirit power ejection by the underground spirit vein. Generally speaking, 10,000 spirit essence of each phase, for a total of 50,000 spirit essences, could double the spirit power ejection rate and was sufficient to be used for cultivation until the Jidan stage. In the immortal falling well, it was very rare that people were able to kill enough spirit beasts in 10 years. The usual arrangement was that disciples of the same sect would cooperate with each other to obtain the spirit essences, so that they could improve their spirit vein and at the same time help a few people with cultivation. Due to this utility, naturally, if anyone wanted to exchange something within the Lilu village, everyone was required to use spirit essences for the transaction. Regardless of whether it was a pill or a magic weapon, everything was traded through spirit essences. Yang Chen had arrived here. Under Jin Tao's lead, he had a room arranged for him in which he would stay for 10 years. At the same time he received a jade slip which gave introductions about every kind of spirit beast, so he made himself comfortable. Younger disciple Yang, you must properly study the weak points of all these beasts and by all means learn properly, this concerns your life. Jin Tao was afraid that Yang Chen did not know about the seriousness of the matter and spared no effort in warning him repeatedly. Wait until you think you are ready for the test. As soon as you pass the test, you can immediately enter the immortal falling well. How can I take this test? Yang Chen asked impatiently. In the Lilu village, there is a testing spot where you have to kill one spirit beast of each of the 5 phases, after that you have passed the test. Jin Tao smiled, downplaying the difficulty of the test the best he could. As soon as you are properly prepared, inform me immediately. Many thanks, senior disciple. Yang Chen courteously sent Jin Tao away. His gaze followed Jin Tao until he left, only then did Yang Chen sit down and probe the jade slip using his spiritual awareness. Immediately a grim smile appeared on his face. Inside of the jade slip, the weak points of all of the spirit beasts of the 5 phases were indeed recorded, but only that and nothing more. This jade slip neither contained their strength nor their ranking. Although it did have their weak points, but who did not know that, when encountering a low-rank spirit beast and a high-rank spirit beast, the outcome would be completely different. Jin Tao had given this jade slip to Yang Chen, so clearly he had malicious intents. Unfortunately, he had encountered Yang Chen, even if all of the knowledge Jin Tao had gained about underground spirit beasts was multiplied by 10, it would still not come close to Yang Chen. These kinds of tricks of his were destined to be a futile and wasted effort. People don't intend to harm the tiger, but they have to, or else the tiger would kill them. Jin Tao had once again become Yang Chen's enemy within his heart. If Jin Tao knew that his current arrangements had thoroughly offended Yang Chen, nobody could say whether he would repent or not. The room did not have anything special, the only use of the room was to provide Yang Chen a place to rest within the Lilu village. It only contained a mat and a couch, but Yang Chen did not care about them in the least, and without even sitting once, he directly left the room and went to the market. Since the Immortal Falling Well was situated underground, there was basically no difference between day and night. People could be seen entering and leaving the village or the market at any time. Yang Chen wasn't as unfamiliar as the other newcomers, but he couldn't find any open spaces within the already lively market. He immediately started searching for a small open space at the corner. After finding a good spot, he took out a jade bottle from his Qianqin pouch and put it on the ground. In front of the jade bottle he placed an eye-catching piece of cloth. On top of the cloth was written, "Second grade Yang Kai pills, 10 for 1 spirit essence." After properly placing it, he did not start shouting, instead he calmly sat on the ground, waiting for customers to drop by. The people coming to that corner were not many. Yang Chen had a very young face, and moreover he was still at the Kai realm. The coming and going foundation experts could immediately determine this using their spiritual awareness. Yang Chen was definitely at a realm where he could not use refining tools. What kind of good items could a Kai layer youngster possibly have? Thinking this, nobody stopped at his shop. Even in this kind of situation, Yang Chen wasn't anxious in the least. He calmly sat there, unhurriedly practicing the 3 purity secret. Only the 3 purity secret could be halted at any time without suffering any backlash. When Yang Chen had just started training, he sensed many people standing in front of him, and simultaneously, he also heard a muffled cry of surprise. "Do you truly have second grade Yang Kai pills?" The other person's voice contained some surprise, but it was filled with even more suspicion. A second grade pill, even if it was only a Yang Kai pill, was still not something a Kai layer disciple could refine. Moreover, the price quoted by Yang Chen was a bit low, which made people doubtful whether Yang Chen was deceiving them. Yang Chen didn't even lift his head and merely opened the jade bottle. Afterwards he took out more than 10 pills and placed them on the white cloth in front of him and indicated with his hand that the other party should take a look himself. The mark of a second grade pill was absolutely clear, moreover its smell was also very pure. There was no doubt in the mind of the other party now in regards of Yang Chen's pills, so he didn't haggle over the price and directly took out 1 spirit essence. After counting the 10 Yang Kai pills, he turned around and left. These 2 people only spoke a few words and immediately reached an agreement. The other party of this deal was quite honest, actually Yang Chen was very fond of this kind of transaction. It was a simple business deal, why make it complicated? After receiving the spirit essence, Yang Chen continued to sit calmly, on one side practicing the 3 purities secret and on other side waiting for customers to come. However, this time he did not have to wait for long. After a moment, the person who had just then purchased 10 Yang Kai pills returned again and sat in front of him, asking in a low voice. "These Yang Kai pills, however many you have, I will buy them all." "Buy them all?" Yang Chen lifted up his head and found himself looking at delicate and pretty face. The person had quite an honest vibe to him. Nodding, Yang Chen agreed. "Right now I have 500 pills, so 50 spirit essences." While speaking, he took out 5 jade bottles and arranged them on the white cloth. The other person similarly took out 50 spirit essences and took the 5 jade bottles and got up. Before leaving, he suddenly said, "In the future if you have more, I will buy them all. I will return and refine 500 more pills to sell here again." However, Yang Chen didn't promise anything, he only smiled and said, "Let's leave meeting each other again to luck." The other person also didn't speak anymore, just nodded in response. Immediately afterwards he left the market. It seemed to Yang Chen that he was going straight to the Immortal Falling Well and had come back here to replenish his pills and rest for a little bit. Although Jin Tao didn't show up, he was monitoring Yang Chen with his spiritual awareness. Seeing that Yang Chen had gone to the market, he followed him to take a look. When he discovered that Yang Chen had surprisingly received 50 spirit essences, he could not help but be amazed. Returning to his room, Yang Chen didn't waste any time hiding his concocting skills and immediately took out his profound spirit furnace to begin concocting pills. He could refine 100 Yang Kai pills at a time. For second-grade Yang Kai pills, to produce one furnace worth of them would require 2 hours. Yang Chen refined 5 furnaces worth and then he began his everyday regular activities. After swallowing 1,000-year profound Yang fruit, he began to cultivate the 5 phases of Yin and Yang secrets. There was no day or night underground, and Yang Chen also didn't follow any specific routine. After training, he went to the market again to sell his second-grade Yang Kai pills. There were very few people at that corner, but still someone would see it, and usually after someone tested the pill, he would immediately purchase all of the pills from Yang Chen. This kind of routine continued for more than 10 days, and within 1 or 2 hours of a day, Yang Chen would get 50 spirit essences after selling the pills. This kind of income made Jin Tao, who was monitoring Yang Chen, very jealous. Even after staying here for 4 years, he had only obtained 3,000 essences, but within the brief period of 10 days, Yang Chen had already obtained several hundred essences, already close to 1,000, the speed, how could it not make him drool? But this was also good, the more spirit essences Yang Chen earned, the more he would get when an accident happened to Yang Chen at the test. Jin Tao was very impatient in his heart, but he still did not act recklessly. This continued for more than 20 days. After that, Yang Chen used up all of the raw materials he had brought with him. In exchange he had obtained 1,300 spirit essences of all kinds. Since he had no more raw materials, Yang Chen finally decided to enter the immortal falling well. After making some preparations, Yang Chen started to look for Jin Tao to ask him to make the preparations for the test. Jin Tao sneered within his heart when he saw Yang Chen looking for him. He led Yang Chen to the testing stage while giving him instructions with false care. After Yang Chen entered the stage, Jin Tao started the spell formation and removed the restrictions on the underground spirit beast. After that he began to wait outside of the spell formation. As long as Yang Chen perished inside, Jin Tao would secretly exchange the jade slip and those spirit essences in Yang Chen's Qianqin pouch with the objects in his pocket. But this was still an extremely pleasant surprise for him. Originally he just wanted to teach a lesson to Yang Chen, but currently he had also gotten the chance to obtain more than 1,000 spirit essences, and all he had to do was pretend to be sad about his death. 1,000 spirit essences was equal to Jin Tao's earnings of 1 year. As for Yang Chen being killed by the underground spirit beasts, it was quite a common occurrence. Even if it was a great foundation expert like Jin Tao, if he was even a little careless in the immortal falling well, he would immediately be killed by underground spirit beasts. Who told him to overestimate his capabilities, a disciple of the Kai layer initial stage wishing to challenge a high-level underground spirit beast, dying would serve him right. If he wanted to blame someone, he could only blame the person who gave him the command tile, well fully aware that his cultivation was quite lacking, but still allowed him to come to the immortal falling well. Who could find out that Jin Tao hadn't registered the correct information about the underground spirit beasts. Furthermore, instead of releasing low-level beasts one by one, he had instead released the high-level spirit beasts of all 5 phases at the same time. Even if he, who was at the foundation stage, was in Yang Chen's place, facing those 5 high-leveled spirit beasts at the same time, would have to fight for several days, slowly wearing down their strength, and only then would he be able to kill them. Sometimes encountering spirit beasts of the 5 phases and being massacred by them was the most tragic reminder of this in the immortal falling well. For Yang Chen's first time in coming in contact with spirit beasts of the 5 phases, Jin Tao was guessing how long it would take to settle this. 5 breaths. 10 breaths. Once the testing stage's spell formation was activated, any great affair happening inside would not alarm the people in the village. Just as Jin Tao felt at ease and was waiting with outrageous leisure for some kind of accident to happen on the stage, dreaming about the 1,000 spirit essences he would receive, a thunderous sound echoed on the stage behind his body. The spell formation opened and from the inside, Yang Chen could be seen coming out very slowly. Unexpectedly these spirit beasts were all subdued by my fire attribute. Across Yang Chen's whole face, a smile could be seen with no trace of being exhausted in the slightest. Laughing happily, he cupped his hands towards Jin Tao and said, "Many thanks, senior disciple, for your care and consideration, which allowed this younger disciple to enter the immortal falling well." In this moment, Jin Tao's expression was of extreme disbelief. Looking at Yang Chen's smiling face, Jin Tao felt an intense need to start crying. If you are enjoying the content, let a like, comment and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 59. Want to make a breakthrough? Dream on. All of them were metal attributed lower level spirit beasts. Jin Tao was so gloomy that he almost started weeping. He had obviously planned for 5 high-level spirit beasts. How could they turn into low-level spirit beasts? Furthermore, into spirit beasts of the metal attribute, which would easily be subdued by Yang Chen's fire attribute. He wanted to start the test again to not allow Yang Chen to pass through, but if he did that, other people would start suspecting him, and at that time, he could be exposed. Jin Tao did not dare to do such a thing, for the fear of exposing himself, but then how could he remedy this time's mistake? Younger disciple Yang, your luck is really good. Jin Tao said with a joyful face, but soon after that he pretended to casually say. You have already passed the test, so younger disciple Yang can enter the immortal falling well at any time. But, you should return the jade slip with the information about spirit beasts to me. Younger disciple has no more need for it, so the next person should be allowed to have it to learn. Yang Chen glanced at Jin Tao and took out the jade slip from his Qianqin pouch. With a mysterious smile he said. Senior disciple Jin should certainly take good care of it. If it is lost, it would be a tragedy. These words made Jin Tao feel fear and trepidation. He almost couldn't bear to look at Yang Chen anymore. But before he could fulfill his desire to forcefully put him down, he remembered where he was. But he still did not look at Yang Chen anymore, deeply afraid that he would make an enormous blunder right now. Alas, your skill is only worth its words, not even worthy of a smile. Yang Chen slowly shook his head and sneered, attentively watching Jin Tao rigidly glance at him, then he turned around and left. Under Yang Chen's gaze, Jin Tao's whole body suddenly trembled and started dripping with sweat, as if he was experiencing a matter of life and death. It was as if death itself had risen in Yang Chen's eyes and could easily see through him, as if he had the intention to strangle and kill him before he could even be born. Peak Foundation Stage, want to condense your Dan? Dream on. Standing distantly, Yang Chen gave his exceptionally disdainful evaluation and disappeared entirely from Jin Tao's spiritual awareness. Even with Jin Tao's ability, he still could not determine the position of Yang Chen. Initially, after hearing Yang Chen's final assessment, he still had the intention to struggle, but Yang Chen's sudden disappearance gave him a fright. Yang Chen's words were like a blade chopping at his head and left a profound impression on his mind. Yang Chen's sentence that he was dreaming filled his entire mind. All of a sudden, Jin Tao felt really discouraged and had no more thoughts regarding breaking through. It was as if only his body was left, his brain had become completely empty, with only regret left behind. Only after this did Jin Tao begin to ponder deeply about this strange thing. If Yang Chen was only an ordinary Kai layer disciple, then how could the palace master of the Pure Yang Palace give him the command tile? How could he think that the ability to judge of Pure Yang Palace's palace master, a Yuning expert, was poorer than that of Jin Tao? Since these kinds of arrangements already existed, Jin Tao should have used his brain at an earlier time and should not have been affected by his emotions. At that time even Jin Tao did not know what kind of demon had confused his mind. Surprisingly, as soon as he heard Yang Chen's name, he wanted to entirely suppress him, so much so that he even forgot to take these facts into consideration. When he remembered that, his intestines turned green with regret. Dismay filled his mind, and because of his countless regrets, his whole self, from top to bottom, was discouraged. Alas, he couldn't even see this simple thing, but he still wanted to condense his Dan. Yang Chen's sentence about dreaming on struck Jin Tao's mind again and again, so that he immediately sat down on the spot, like an imbecile. Yang Chen had only used a minor method to stun his spirit. Within the 3 purities secret, there were many such simple magics, including methods to stun the spirit. Although Yang Chen called it a minor method, it was only minor when used against immortals. In this realm it could be considered among the most supreme of secrets. Usually the spirit stunning methods were used to confuse the soul, but during that time the caster could not just relax and do something else that would have the same effect as loudly yelling, waking the target up. Yang Chen did the exact opposite in the case of Jin Tao. When he was confused and discouraged, Yang Chen completely destroyed his confidence in one move. This was the same as planting a heart's devil within his mind. As soon as he would try to cultivate, this dispiritedness would immediately appear. Yang Chen's spiritual awareness was a whole realm higher when compared to Jin Tao, and moreover, in this world Yang Chen had never seen anyone who could resist the Great Supreme Elder's secret. Jin Tao was not aware that everything had went according to Yang Chen's plan. He had already been immersed in regret, incessantly criticizing himself. Perhaps if he had come across this kind of thing in his previous life, Yang Chen could only resign himself to having bad luck and cultivate again afterwards. But in this life Yang Chen would not let any person who had intentions to kill him get away with it. As for Jin Tao, Yang Chen could stop paying any attention to him for the time being, a cultivator plagued by his heart's devil. Only if someone of very high cultivation found out about his situation and sacrificed some of his cultivation to help him could Jin Tao remove it. The cultivator who had lost all of his confidence in cultivating, even if he was a very high-level expert in the cultivation world, he would still be regarded as a crippled person. This kind of ending was even worse than death. Perhaps Jin Tao could still have a fortuitous encounter and be able to break away from Yang Chen's spirit-shaking technique, but Yang Chen was very confident that the next time he would see Jin Tao face to face, he could easily get rid of him. Yang Chen found that he could only gain the complete approval of the Zhantai stage's will by continuous slaughter. Within the Heavenly Stairs spell formation, he had only fused with a small portion of that killing intent, but luckily, madly killing the spirit beasts at the Immortal Falling Well could excite that killing intent. Yang Chen was convinced that, as long as his soul were to completely fuse with that will, his strength would take a giant leap. Outside the Lilu village, there was not much light, instead it was dark everywhere. The Immortal Falling Well had gotten its name because, even if an immortal cultivator lowered his guard, he would easily perish. Within this absolute darkness, if one were to be surrounded by a large number of underground spirit beasts, only if he was a Yuning stage expert could he escape from this confinement, otherwise dying was the only option. Because many people inhabit the region near the village, the amount of spirit beasts was relatively very low here. After Yang Chen came out of the village, with the help of the faint light from the Lilu village, he began to determine the approximate direction of his destination. That person from the Heavenly Court had only told Yang Chen the approximate location. Yang Chen had no other option but to rely on his own memory and sense of direction to track down the exact location. Yang Chen rapidly determined the direction and began to walk into the darkness. Not long after Yang Chen departed from the Lilu village, someone came to the corner where Yang Chen had frequently set up his stall. When he looked at the completely bereft flat piece of land, he suddenly asked in a loud voice. "Where did that second-grade pill concocting master go?" His loud shout suddenly caused a great commotion in the whole market. "Second-grade pill concocting master? Where is he? Who is he?" Countless people began to come over there. The regular life within the Immortal Falling Well was quite dull. To obtain enough spirit essences, apart from resting and replenishing supplies, everyone would only keep on fighting in the Immortal Falling Well. Often, to persist through these long and dull battles, the fights would become extremely violent. Similarly, a pill concocting master and tool refining master who were extremely focused on concocting pills and refining tools were not very adept at fighting in this way, thus, there were very few people like this in the Immortal Falling Well. Any kind of fight required the circulation of spirit power and the use of weapons, while simultaneously also inevitably being the cause for severe injuries and damage to magic weapons. Under normal circumstances, some highest quality pills were available for healing or perhaps restoring the spirit power in an extremely violent fight, but as for second-grade pills, these people had never come in contact with them. Apart from how many kinds of high-level pills he could refine, the status of a pill refining master was also determined by looking at the grade of his pills. Even if the cultivation of a second-grade pill concocting master was low compared to an ordinary pill concocting master, his future prospects were boundless. To run into a second-grade pill concocting master at the Immortal Falling Well was simply some unbelievable luck. After hearing the shout of that person, everyone faintly remembered that at this place there had been a youngster selling pills for the past few days. Only, everyone thought what kind of quality items could a trifling Kailei or cultivator possibly have, so everyone merely swept over his stall once with their spiritual awareness and then walked away without stopping. But currently, hearing that he was a second-grade pill refining master, countless people began to lament. If he already was a second-grade pill refining master at the Kailei, then what would his grade be after building his foundation and congealing his dan? This kind of a person was in front of their eyes for several days, but surprisingly nobody paid attention to him. Luckily this was the Immortal Falling Well, that youngster had also come here to be refined through battles, so in the end, he had to return to the Lilu village. From this moment, nobody would occupy that corner of the market, all were aware that they had to stay away from that vacant space, and as soon as that youngster returns, everyone could seek contact with him for their own purposes. As long as they could get on good terms with him, it would be an enormous opportunity for them. Yang Chen was not aware that this kind of thing happened after he left, he merely kept on walking towards his destination. Very quickly, he came across some spirit beasts. Bang. The spirit beasts near the Lilu village were basically all homeless exiles and were not that powerful. Under the heavy defense of Yang Chen's reverse 5 phases of Yin and Yang secrets, their attacks basically didn't even harm a hair of Yang Chen. Moreover, Yang Chen only defended himself but did not attack in the slightest. Strictly speaking, the underground spirit beasts were not living creatures, rather just spiritual influence that is condensed to form a creature. Their attacks were just a release of the spiritual influence inside of their bodies. It's true that you could kill a spirit beast by attacking it, but by waiting until they exhausted their entire spiritual influence, many more spirit essences could be obtained when compared to the usual way of attacking and killing them. Only half an hour later, that spirit beast had consumed all of its spiritual influence and turned into a piece of spirit essence that fell down to the ground. After picking up the spirit essence, Yang Chen had not walked many steps before he heard the sound of a violent fight and the roar of more than 100 spirit beasts. Turning towards the direction of the sound, he saw a silhouette being jointly attacked by more than 100 spirit beasts from all sides. The entire body of that person was wrapped up inside of a blue-colored shield which was fluttering around. In addition to that, a flying sword was continuously flickering in the surroundings, rapidly attacking the spirit beasts moving close. Difficult situations such as this would only happen if several beasts of different attributes attacked together. When a large number of underground spirit beasts flock around one, apart from this method, in which, after properly protecting oneself with a good defense like this and attacking the spirit beasts which could be restrained by one's own attribute afterwards, there was no proper method. But every spirit beast that perished would still take about half a day to be killed. Most of the time, by oneself one could only obtain one type of spirit essence and later ask other people to trade in order to obtain spirit essences of other attributes. Even if it was a spell formation cultivator, when facing underground spirit beasts, they would also be at wit's end. Underground spirit beasts are basically condensed spiritual influence, so an attack by a spell formation, which was also formed from spiritual influence, against these condensed forms of spiritual influence, would not be effective in the least. Only by truly striking them with flying swords would one be effective, but usually the people in the Immortal Falling Well were all middle foundation stage experts who wanted to raise their cultivation and increase their status, so who among them would possess flying swords? Yang Chen didn't stop and directly passed by the small area, rushed towards even more dark abyss. Yang Chen's action made that surrounded cultivator turn pale with fright. He had already discovered Yang Chen's presence with the help of his spiritual awareness, but within the Immortal Falling Well, people very rarely associated and formed a group. He also didn't care about it a lot, but seeing Yang Chen's path, he thought that Yang Chen had made a mistake and picked the wrong one. When he saw that Yang Chen was surprisingly rushing even deeper, that person could not help but cry out in surprise. "In there it's even more dangerous, take care." He could only shout, as he was already surrounded by spirit beasts, so he was unable to block Yang Chen. "There is no harm in checking it out, many thanks, senior." Yang Chen vaguely expressed his gratitude and without showing any signs of stopping, he continued to walk forward. But within a moment, suddenly a big flock of spirit beasts appeared in front of him and surrounded him, making Yang Chen disappear from the range of that man's spiritual awareness. Alas! While being attacked by spirit beasts from all sides, that man sighed. He was only at the Kai layer, how could he enter that deep region? But he also only sighed, without slowing his hand. Was the number of cultivator dying within the Immortal Falling Well really that low? What about one Yang Chen? Even several Yang Chens wouldn't be a lot. If that person could see Yang Chen's current situation, he would have surely been shocked beyond measure. Yang Chen didn't have any defensive magic weapon, and those spirit beasts were madly attacking him, but Yang Chen did not care about them in the least and only kept on moving forward without stopping, incessantly searching the surroundings with his spiritual awareness. After walking for nearly half a month, he had already penetrated deeply into the regions of high-level spirit beasts, only then was Yang Chen able to arrive at his destination. At this moment, he was being attacked by spirit beasts from all sides, yet Yang Chen could only do his best to resist them. As for the Yang Kai pills he had brought for himself, Yang Chen had already consumed every pill out of every bottle. After all, there were several hundreds of spirit beasts in his surroundings, and the number was still increasing. Without the support of these pills, even if Yang Chen was powerful, he would still have been incapable of finding his destination. But when all was said and done, the pills were finite and he hadn't gotten any opportunity to restore his spirit power, so when he was finally here, he was already like an arrow at the end of its flight. His formidable spiritual awareness encompassed several tens of meters. Very quickly, Yang Chen appeared at the place he was informed about. It had an immense circular and lofty stone as landmark, as if for reminding Yang Chen that he had found the right place. There was a small crack behind the circular stone, luckily it was just enough for himself to enter. Seeing that, Yang Chen did not dare to be careless, and at lightning speed, he jumped on the top of the pile of attacking underground spirit beasts and moved towards that entrance, striving to make his way into it. If you are enjoying the content, let a like, comment and subscribe to Fantasy World for more. Chapter 60 Earth Fiend Sacrificial Formation Secret. When Yang Chen had finally gone through that entrance, the spirit beasts chasing him choked up at the small entrance and weren't able to enter. At last he was able to completely rest up. Since he was a third Kai layer disciple, he still did not have the ability to fly by himself, so after moving while defending against several hundred underground spirit beasts for half a month, Yang Chen was extremely exhausted. The high-level spirit beast with a large head, the size of a wild boar, was jammed between the stones on both the sides of the tunnel. It could neither go in nor come out, but because of this, all of the spirit beasts behind it were stuck on the outside. The space inside the cave was very big, it had a large perimeter which provided a lot of space. Yang Chen could even spread his legs and take a nap. What would make people most speechless was that there was still an underground spirit vein here, which provided an unending flow of spirit power, making it a natural cultivation spot. Such a good region, it was very fortunate that someone in Yang Chen's previous life had been able to find it. At the moment, Yang Chen didn't dare to be neglectful and immediately took out his obsidian jade mat, placed it on the mouth of spirit vein, and sat down on it to meditate. He started restoring his spirit power and at the same time began to nourish his meridians. He had to meditate for 2 days and 2 nights continuously to restore the spirit power and spiritual awareness he had exhausted in the fortnight he had been resisting the spirit beasts. Due to the plentiful spiritual influence from the underground spirit vein, Yang Chen did not need to waste a profound yang fruit. Even the bottle of the medicine garden began to slowly replenish its spirit power when placed at the mouth of the spirit vein. Originally the immortal falling well was just an enormous cavity in the ground, nobody knew where its perimeter was, even the council of the 5 formidable elders was not able to discover its edge. As for why these underground spirit beasts appeared, nobody had even the slightest idea. Everyone was only aware that these spirit beasts killed endlessly without any reason and kept on attacking the Lilu village, the only exit in an unending stream. The high-spirited Yang Chen had accidentally come to know about these insider facts, but currently the most important task for him was to kill these underground spirit beasts and collect their spirit essences to increase his own cultivation and to fuse the will of the Zhanxian stage. The reverse 5 phases of yin and yang secrets were like 2 millstones, grinding at high speed. When it was focused on the spirit beast, it quickly sapped away all of the spiritual influence of that high-level spirit beast, only leaving behind a few shiny spirit essences. After that, the entrance became clear again, and immediately he was attacked by another spirit beast, whose head had also gotten jammed at the small entrance. This spirit beast also died under Yang Chen's hand. In here, Yang Chen did not have to worry about the security of his life, one spirit beast would absolutely not be a menace to him. On the contrary, with sufficient spirit power and a safe environment, he could continue to kill the spirit beasts for an unlimited amount of time. In case anyone in the immortal falling well saw Yang Chen's efficiency at killing the spirit beasts, he would certainly faint with shock. When someone tried to kill a spirit beast, first he had to take care of his own defense properly and then single-mindedly concentrate on attacking the spirit beast with a magic weapon grade flying sword. Even after that, if the spirit beast was killed within half a day, it could still be considered to be a great accomplishment. It had to be known that this was originally the territory of the underground spirit beasts, so the spiritual influence here was quite plentiful, and the spirit beasts who had suffered injuries could recover their injuries by themselves. The time they needed to recover their injuries was far lower when compared to those disciples who had come to Immortal Falling Well to train. So where would one find a person like Yang Chen, who was effortlessly cutting off the necks of spirit beasts like this? This became a regular routine of his life, sapping away their spiritual influence and killing the spirit beasts without stopping. Then, when his spirit power was exhausted, he would sit down on the obsidian jade mat and meditate to replenish it again. Every day he would practice the 5 phases of yin and yang secrets once all the way through, then the 3 purity secrets, and afterwards absorb the killing intent that had been evoked due to the incessant killing of spirit beasts and hammer his spiritual awareness into shape. After that, he would use the universal treasure-raising secrets on the profound spirit furnace and sword box to increase their grade, and soon after that, he started killing those spirit beasts without stopping again. Yang Chen had stored enough food and water within the achievements ring. He even had the luxury of using the medicine garden, where he planted some fruits and vegetables. Apart from the fact that he could not leave here when he wanted, his life could almost be called perfect. The number of underground spirit beasts was endless. As soon as Yang Chen killed one, the next one arrived. It was basically not possible for him to kill all of them. Within the brief period of half a year, Yang Chen had already killed more than 10,000 spirit beasts and collected their spirit essences, which had far surpassed the number of spirit beasts killed because of Yang Chen's superior killing method and the high grade of the spirit beasts. Currently Yang Chen had already collected more than 30 to 40,000 spirit essences. After some more time, he had managed to obtain 50,000 spirit essences by himself. This kind of cycle wasn't dependent on day or night. Under this kind of extremely intensive cultivation, Yang Chen had already forgotten the time. When he had barely killed the spirit beast at the entrance, the next one immediately jammed the tunnel. Soon he would be exhausted of spirit power and return to the obsidian jade mat to start cultivating in order to recover. After performing 10 heavenly circulations, the spirit power in his body almost recovered, but he still didn't show any signs of stopping. The pressure of this routine also passed on to his meridians, one pull, one push, seemingly as if expecting something, the spirit power began to build up with his meridians. At last, the spirit power that had been surging forward was unable to proceed further and began to be compressed to an extreme point. Bang. As if some kind of shield inside his meridians had broken, the spirit power began to surge forth violently within his body, like a runaway horse. The sensation was as if the strength stored in his whole body had been liberated. Yang Chen noticed that this was his own spirit power, once again trying to overcome an obstacle to break through to the 4th Kai layer. Originally the spirit power was being forcefully built up inside of the meridians, but now it was as if his whole body had become completely empty. The obsidian jade mat underneath him was the source of an unending stream of spirit power, which began to fill the hollowness created because of his breakthrough to another level. From the 3rd Kai layer to the 4th Kai layer, although it was just an increase of one minor layer, this was also a qualitative change from the initial Kai realm to the middle Kai realm. This implied that Yang Chen was no longer a rookie at the initial Kai stage, but rather a proper cultivator at the middle Kai stage. This certainly did not mean that it was just an increase of one type of spirit power, but rather an increase for all of the 10 types of spirit power of the 5 phases of yin and yang. The underground spirit vein of the immortal falling well basically had all types of spirit power, otherwise it would have been impossible to nurture all attributes of spirit beasts. An enormous amount of spirit power began to rush forth, violently entering Yang Chen's body. Under Yang Chen's meticulous guidance, the 5 phases of yin and yang secrets rotated to their maximum limit and began to strengthen his internal organs. This was a necessary course of events everyone had to experience after entering the middle Kai layer. Actually, the purpose of the entire Kai stage was to transform the body so that it would be able to resist even more pressure from spirit power and finally build the foundation. Although Yang Chen's body had already been strengthened by the essence of the flesh and blood of countless immortals, that kind of devil cultivation transformed the body from outside to inside, but currently, the enormous amount of spirit power was strengthening the body from the inside to the outside. Under the violent rush of the large amount of spirit power, Yang Chen could not even deal with the underground spirit beasts and began to concentrate on consolidating himself. The state of consolidating was a necessary process after making a breakthrough. Even compared to the process of increase in attack, the state of consolidating was more important. A good analogy to compare both states would be to consider the process of breaking through an attack power as being equivalent to hammering a nail into the rooftop of one's house. If the attack power was enough, it would easily pierce through. But the consolidating process was comparable to consolidating the foundation after the nail had pierced through. The more profound the foundation, the bigger the house it can support. Currently Yang Chen looked exactly like a person who was building their foundation, frantically absorbing the spiritual influence from the spirit vein to lay his own, solid and firm foundation. During the absorbing process Yang Chen encountered one problem. When he was at the initial Kai stage, the 5 phases were complete and were in an equilibrium in Yang Chen's body, and it was not much of a concern, but in the middle Kai stage, to continue maintaining this kind of display, it would be universally shocking. In the future, he had to deliberately give prominence to his fire attribute cultivation, otherwise a lot of people would be able to make the connection. This time, absorbing the spirit power to strengthen his foundation had taken almost 2 to 3 times more time than usual, only then was it completed. As for Yang Chen, since there was no disturbance and the area also had plentiful spirit power, there was basically absolutely no chance of some unexpected accident, and he could smoothly consolidate the 4th Kai layer's state. Once he had made the breakthrough, Yang Chen immediately took out a flying sword and attempted to execute the second refining by the Heavenly Star's treasure refining secrets. The Heavenly Star's treasure refining secrets was a very good technique. It could allow him to generate a Heavenly Star's spell formation on every kind of spirit power. Due to the Heavenly Star's spell formation, his defense and attack had become a lot more formidable when compared to an ordinary cultivator's defense and attack. Although currently he had only executed the first refining, but after probing with his formidable spiritual awareness, because he could judge his own strength very precisely, he knew that his strength had been increased by at least 3 times compared to before. In other words, just activating the 36 threads of spirit power together would immediately increase his strength. The only question was whether the Heavenly Star's treasure refining secrets increased his strength by 2 to 3 folds or 10 folds. Fantasy was very beautiful, but reality was extremely cruel. Even if Yang Chen had already entered the middle Kai stage, he was still unable to execute the second refining. Apart from using the method to increase it by 1 grade to reach the middle stage, the second time he started executing it, he would feel the spirit power being blocked every time, unable to proceed and further. Yang Chen had no option other than stopping resentfully. Since the Heavenly Star's treasure refining secrets were out of question, Yang Chen directly turned to the Earth Fiend sacrificial formation secrets. The 72 layers of Earth Fiend sacrificial formation secrets could similarly increase the grade of a magic weapon. Previously Yang Chen's cultivation was too low, but after making a breakthrough, he could give it a try. The outcome was far beyond his expectations. Under the first refining by the Earth spell, the flying sword was successfully branded with the seal of the Earth spell. But still Yang Chen was only able to barely accomplish it. His whole body was profusely sweating, and all of his spirit power had been consumed. He even had to use the spirit power of a profound yang fruit, not to mention the fact he was already sitting on top of an underground spirit vein. Only then was he able to accomplish this. But although the process was very exhausting, its success made Yang Chen delighted. A bright light flashed from the flying sword. Anyone could tell at one glance that it was not an ordinary object. Only Yang Chen did not know whether to laugh or cry at it. Upgrading the magic weapon was a good thing, but this kind of flashiness was not something he was fond of. Unfortunately, this was not something under Yang Chen's control. Yang Chen knew that refining by the Heavenly Star's treasure-raising secrets and Earth Fiend sacrificial formation secrets was not a complete refining. Refining a magic weapon was only complete when it could be properly controlled. Only then could it become a peerless gem of magic weapon grade. Although the transformation of the flying sword made Yang Chen happy, the transformation of his own spirit energy made Yang Chen absolutely ecstatic. Not even Yang Chen had anticipated that, when he had completed the first level refining of the Earth Fiend sacrificial formation secrets, the spirit power of every type in his body, which had been divided into spirit power threads by the Heavenly Star spell, would once again split and an Earth Fiend spell formation was added. But these two types of spell did not mutually influence each other and existed by themselves, not having fused the Earth spell and the Heavenly Star spell. Even if it was like this, the transformation within his body still made Yang Chen go wild with joy. Immediately he began to restore his spirit power, and soon he went to test his offensive power. The unlucky spirit beast which was stuck at the entrance became the first pitiful victim of his test. It could not move at all and could only blankly stare at Yang Chen attacking its body. After around 10 strikes, it finally took its last breath, leaving behind 2 spirit essences. Yang Chen's initial way of killing the high-level spirit beast would have left behind 5 spirit essences, but attacking like this only gave 2. After several attacks, Yang Chen finally determined how much damage he could cause. With the Heavenly Star's treasure refining secrets, every layer increased his strength by 3 times. According to this, if he could completely cultivate the Heavenly Star's treasure-raising secret and the Earth secret, his attack power would increase by 324 times, and even if he didn't completely cultivate them, his power would still increase by 32 times. This was still when the Earth spell and the Heavenly Star's treasure-raising secrets were working alone. If Yang Chen was able to completely fuse them, then he would get even more of a surprise. Yang Chen, who had the experience of 2 lives, was naturally aware of the saying, "Learn to walk before you can run." In any case, right now, obtaining these kind of outcome was already more than enough. Yang Chen didn't let greed take him over. On the contrary, after sufficient preparation, he took out the profound spirit furnace and the sword box separately and also executed the Earth Secret's first layer refining. After having done the refining on the flying sword earlier, the refining of the sword box and the profound spirit furnace went without a hitch and also wasn't as exhausting as the first time, but compared to the first time, the use of the Earth Secrets was somewhat better. After the refining of the sword box was completed, Yang Chen began to kill the spirit beasts in a different way. In any case, he had already collected 50,000 spirit essences, which were more than sufficient for his immortal cave in the future, so obtaining spirit essences was no longer his main objective. What he needed to do now was to kill the spirit beasts by beheading them. This method was the most preferred method for executing immortals at the Zhanxian stage, and also was most capable of provoking the fusion of the will of the Zhanxian stage with his own. Immediately, without wasting any time, Yang Chen took the sword box, which had the appearance of his immortal execution blade, and raising it high, he beheaded a spirit beast in one slash. This marked the beginning of his new regular routine, with a new method for killing and beheading beasts. Having a sharp weapon increased the efficiency of killing when compared to doing it empty-handed. With just 3 slashes, Yang Chen had chopped off the head, a spirit beast stuck in the entrance. If you are enjoying the content, let a like, comment and subscribe to Fantasy World for more.